Written slide now.
May appear at the scheduled meeting via video conference, but the presiding officer and a quorum of the board will be physically present at the above notice location. The regular board meeting can be viewed on the following YouTube link. Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Robstown Independent School District will be held on Monday, August 23rd, 2021 at 6 p.m. in the boardroom of the Robstown Administration Building, 801 North First Street, Robstown, Texas, at which time the agenda items will be discussed. In the course of the meeting, the board may change the order of business at its discretion without advance notice. First item, call to order, roll call.
Cesar Martinez present.
Present.
Bertha Roldan present.
Not at the moment, Lori Garza present. Not with us at the moment is Hector Lopez, Larry Cantu, and May Gonzalez. Next item, moment of silence, prayer. Bertha, will you lead us in prayer, please?
Sure. Heavenly Father, we come to you this hour asking for your blessing and help us as we gather together. We pray for guidance in the matters at hand and ask that you would clearly show us how to conduct our work with a spirit of joy and enthusiasm. Give us a desire to find ways to excel in our work. Help us to work together and encourage each other to excellence. We ask that we would challenge each other to reach higher and further to be the best that we could be. We ask this in the name of the Father. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bertha.
Madam President, for the record, Mr. Gonzalez present, 601.
Thank you, Cesar.
The radio was on. It's up, yes.
Thank you for coming, May. Next item, Pledge of Allegiance. Next item is our vision and mission. Would somebody like to recite those, please?
I'll do the vision. Inspiring lifelong learning by providing limitless opportunities for success.
Robson ISD mission, empowering individuals today to prepare for tomorrow.
Thank you, trustees. Next item, public participation. Idma? None? Thank you, Idma. Next item, public hearing for the purpose of receiving public comments on the adoption of the proposed 2021-2022 budget and 2021-2022 tax rate.
And letter
I'm sorry, letter A, back on 5, is Robstown ISD request for public comments on the use of elementary and secondary school emergency relief 2 ESSER 2 funds.
Trustees, with your permission, because Ms. Briggs cannot be here physically, but she is going to attend virtually, I'm going to go and take her place on the presentation.
For the record, Madam President, Mr. Cantu is present via Zoom.
Thank you, Cesar.
It's 6:03.
So good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, in our community. In our community, this evening, one of the requirements that we have is to be able to present, as we did for ESSER 3, today to be able to present ESSER 2 to our community to see if there's any questions that come up from ESSER 2. So ESSER 2, again, is going to be an additional amount of funding that was provided to school districts across the state. And of course, depending on the demographics of these school districts or the socioeconomic standings, that determined how much every school district would receive. When we proceed, the program description, this is a grant program that's authorized by the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations. And the intent and the purpose of the funding is to prevent, prepare, or respond to COVID-19 pandemic, including its impact on the social, emotional, mental health, and academic needs of students. So for this particular grant, our district was awarded 5.5 billion appropriated to the state of Texas. Okay, so make sure I'm clear on that. That's not to Robstown ISD. It's 5.5 billion appropriated to the state of Texas. And our district received $5,568,488. Now that was the allocation, but one of the things that was looked at actually from that full amount, Richard, is it always gonna?
It's a PDF, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a little off.
From the full amount, there's certain amounts of funding that was going to be also taken out when it comes to the appropriations that we were allowed to take from the amount. So the grant period is from March 13, 2020, which was the pre-award, through September 30th, 2022. And the titling amendment will then apply, and the local education agencies or school districts will have the standard 12-month carryover period for a total grant period of March 13, 2020 through September 30th, 2023. So the original application deadline is September the 2nd, 2021, and that's why we're here this evening reviewing the plan as we move forward. The program guidelines are allowable and unallowable uses are the same as ESSER 3. ESSER 3, as you recall, trustees, we did have a worksheet or diagram that we had all the allocations set up. Now, ESSER 2 has different requirements that we go through, but it doesn't require the same level of final approval from the state. So that's where we begin here. So some of the funds are supplanted. Excuse me?
I told Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Cantu can't hear on his end, so
Oh,
he's gonna try to fix it.
okay.
Oh, there you go. Now I can hear you guys.
Thank you. And some of the funds are supplanted and the remainder are supplemental. So administration must provide public notice prior to submitting the application, which is what we're doing today. And this will be done at a future board meeting where administration will notify the public of its intent to apply for the funds. Richard? All right, so the key changes from ESSER 3 as compared to ESSER 2. TA will reduce our district's hold harmless. So remember what I mentioned about the full amount, we wouldn't have necessarily access to the full amount. Because of hold harmless, there's a certain percentage that was taken off from right from the top, and then we're left with a certain amount from there, and I'll show you the specificity on that. For some districts, this may be all of their ESSER II allocations. For other districts, there will be significant ESSER II left over, which in our district, we're gonna have some left over that we'll be able to utilize in our districts to meet the needs of our students. It will depend on how many hold harmless ADA you need, which again, for us is an area that we're really targeting, the average daily attendance. The average daily attendance based on our results for, due to COVID is really is serving as a catalyst in many different areas as far as our budget process, which we're also gonna talk about today. Next. So a couple things to consider. There is no uses of funds, which is a title, uses of funds plan is required. And the other thing is no learning loss set aside is required. So just remember for ESSER 3, there was a certain percentage that had to be set for learning loss. It's not required, although we take that in consideration as we move forward. Okay, now the numbers are going to get a little bit more difficult to see here, but if you go to the middle section on the distribution of ESSER 2 allocation, there you see the original of 5.5 million, and then the ESSER 2 that's dedicated as far as how much is taken from the hold harmless. We ended up with $3.6 million, $3,630,148 that our district would be able to utilize to be able to look at different initiatives in our school district. Things to keep in mind, ESSER 2 is a one-time source of funding. So whereas ESSER 3 carries us for 3 years, ESSER 2 carries us for the 2 years, but it's only one-time deal. And there's a large influx of ESSER funding into the district that can result in funded deficits when it ends up. So basically what that is saying is this, is we can't over-rely on that funding. So we have to be very intentional, very strategic on how it's utilized to be able to meet the needs of our school district. And as you can tell right from the very beginning, the hold harmless, which is impacted by the ADA, right off the top, there was a certain amount that went back to the state. ESSER funds are federal funds, so procurement, this is another big area to be cognizant of, trustees. The procurement process that we use on all federal funds goes back to Edgar laws. That has to be taken into consideration, everything that we're doing, because everything we're gonna have to obviously be able to keep track of to be able to report to the state. So this is a description of what we would like to look at as far as the breakdown of that $3.6 million that we have left out of ESSER 2. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight within our budget is an offset to a possible raise for our employees, which would cost out of ESSER 2 about $500,000. And this again will be up for further discussion when we get to that point in our budget meeting today. TEA Foundation School, this is part of the requirement that we have to look at as far as the Foundation School program, is $2.2 million. Food service, because we had a deficit in food service because of, again, the low attendance and enrollment, that helps us offset that budget deficit that we have there. And the general fund salaries, this is also when we start to look at where we can look at certain positions within our school district to offset our current budget, our general from our general funds. That's about the total amount, 1.8, which is 1,851,828. How much we would offset from our general funds by using ESSER 2 funds. Again, that goes back to our positions within our school, various positions within our school district. And then indirect costs. This is indirect costs is a certain amount that our district can utilize for other means. So that would be the breakdown that we look at for the remaining money.
Sir,
Yes, ma'am.
I believe Hector Lopez is on. Can we verify that? Richard, do you see him?
Yes, ma'am, he's
Yes,
right there,
thank
bottom
you.
left.
Thank you. For the record, Hector Lopez is present, Eva.
Thank you. And this, you're not going to be able to necessarily read this document because of how small it is, but this is just a sample, trustees. If you recall on ESSER 3, we had a breakdown, a chart that had everything noted. This is the same concept of what we would be doing here, is breaking down the money. So that plan is turned into the state. Okay, same process as ESSER 3. So the next steps is for us to submit the application, post the required safe return to in-person instruction continuity of services. So part of what we turned in as far as our protocols that we established for COVID is keeping our schools safe. There's an academic component that we're going to add to that, and that'll be the full continuity plan of services plan as well. And we have to post the application and the uses of the funds to the website no later than 30 days of receiving the ESER 2 notice of grant award, basically our NOGA. So once we get that, we have to have that on our website as well.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the post of the notice of the grant, is it gonna show the 5.5 million, or is it gonna show the 3-point-something million?
It'll show the full amount, but then it'll show the breakdown of what our school district was left with that
Okay.
we could utilize.
Okay, and it's gonna state why we have to give them back 1-point-something million?
Yes, ma'am, because
Okay.
that's a hold harmless. That's a big component that has to be taken into consideration. Some districts, again, the hold harmless, the full funding, if you got anything for ESER 2, went completely to hold harmless. We were, fortunate enough to have a certain amount that was left over that we can continue utilizing in our district.
Good. I just wanna make sure the community knows that we're not getting the whole 5.5 million.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Ms. Riggs, is there anything else that we need noted on the ESER 2?
Sir, I believe
I
Ms.
have a
Roldan.
question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, with regards to the, lost my point here. Were we supposed to pay back the,
Hold harmless?
full harvest?
Yes, ma'am.
That's for this year coming up? Or-
That was for what we fell short this year.
Right.
Based on our projection and our even projection on ADA, that's how money that we had to pay back to the state, right off from
But
the
it's
top.
coming out of the ESER 3 fund.
ESER 2.
ESER 2,
Mhm.
out of the 2, but we're going to, okay. Well, that's good, so we don't have to get it out of the general fund, basically what I'm getting at.
Well, they're taking it automatically.
Automatically. Mhm.
Okay,
To be able to address the hold harmless.
okay, but we would have gotten more of the ESER fund had we not had to do that.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Yes, ma'am.
The home harvest is not, explain the home harvest, is that for only ADA or employees or everything that we lost during?
So for hold harmless, the question was asked is, what exactly does hold harmless make up? Hold harmless is basically last year through the COVID year, and we're still experiencing COVID, of course, across the nation. But what the state was doing at different phases of the year, they basically would give districts a helping hand because they knew that enrollment was starting to waver. But the average daily attendance, the days of the number of kids that were actually in school, no matter what our projections were before, was much lower. So if a district found themselves in a point where their ADA, their average daily attendance was, really dismal or lower, not even meeting the goals that were established, the state said, okay, we're gonna make up the difference. So they basically took care of that difference for the states and didn't hold us as far as reducing our funds. So now that the ESER 2 came, they said, okay, well, because we helped you then, now we're gonna go ahead and take that part of it out. And that's where the benefit came from ESER 2, that we didn't have to take it then from our funds. They just basically took back what was put in.
So it's specifically ADA or the whole money that we lost during the pandemic?
The majority of this for hold harmless is about ADA. It's about average daily
It's
attendance.
not specifically all ADA, that's my question.
For hold harmless, yes. Hold harmless was about average daily attendance.
Okay.
Ms. Riggs, am I not right on that?
Yes, sir, it's on average daily attendance. We were held harmless, and our ADA, our hold harmless ADA was 2,329. Our actual ADA for the year was 2,089. So they take the difference between those two numbers, and they said, well, we helped you out with that number of ADA. And so now you have to kind of like reimburse us back from the federal funding we received.
What were those numbers again, ma'am? 229, is that what you said?
Hold harmless ADA was 2329, I'm sorry, and our actual was 2,089.
So the money that we're getting to I'm gonna say survive, but keep going during the pandemic, what
That's a combination of ESSER three funds, which we've already turned in the application, that was already reviewed by our trustees, as well as the community. And then now this is just another phase of it, which is ESSER two funds. It's just additional funds that was on top of the ESSER three.
So what does that particularly mean? Especially like when we went to the cafeteria people that did work, and like, what would they get paid from? Does that fall in the home harmless or not?
Well, again, hold harmless would be strictly just for attendance purposes. But ESSER three, the ESSER three grant, and part of even what you see the breakdown here that we have in other deficit areas that we have in our school district, ESSER two just gave us another opportunity to look at that. On ESSER three, remember we had the learning loss, which is, I'm gonna say, and this is a rough amount, okay? Trustees, but roughly about a third that was for learning loss that we allocated out of the full, I think it was 15, Vanessa, Ms. Riggs, is it 15.5 million?
For ESSER three, it was 12.5 million.
12.
We had to reserve 20% for learning costs, which was 2.5 million. Our plan showed 2.8 million set aside for learning loss.
Sir,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
we're talking about ESSER two funds, correct?
Correct,
Can
we're-
we stick to ESSER two funds
Mhm.
for the sake of the
Sure.
length of the agenda? I brought it up, May, because we're getting 5.5 million on ESSER two funds, but we're not really getting that money. So in other words, they're taking back some of that money for us. So when he posts the grant, I just wanna make sure that he puts on there that we were awarded 5.5 million, but we're not getting it all. We're getting only 3.9 million.
3.6.
I understand what you're saying, I'm just asking like, I just needed like,
For clarity?
yeah, for clarity, that's just it, nothing to do.
No, you're right, because that's why our community doesn't know what whole harness is. So it's good if you could make that note on there, sir.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
What is the amount that we get per child, sir? Like on an average daily attendance?
A rough estimate per child is,
Daily?
for the year, about $8,000, roughly.
So, sir, I have a question with regards to the ESSER Fund 1, 2, 3. That is something totally different than what we normally would get for each child, correct?
Correct. This is all about
Because
COVID
of
recovery.
COVID recovery,
Mhm.
correct.
Yeah, the state recognizing and the federal, I guess the federal government also recognizing, hey, their school districts need some help right now nationwide and of course in the state of Texas. So this is just their way of saying, here's some extra support for you.
We just need to let the community know that we're talking about not apples to apples, it's just totally different.
Correct. This is money that we normally would never have counted on
Right.
to have.
Right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions? Okay,
Okay, sir,
Thank
next
you.
item.
next item.
Next item, public hearing for the purpose of receiving public comments on the adoption of the proposed 2021-2022 budget and 2021-2022 tax rate.
Let me reiterate on this particular public hearing, again, it's anybody in the public, of course, has the opportunity to ask any questions. Again, even if anybody were to come up, we allow them the opportunity to ask the questions that they have, and that's what this public hearing purpose is for. At this time, Ms. Riggs is going to present the public hearing and tax rate options publicly. Again, I want to stress that if anyone has any questions from our general public, that's why we have the hearing process as we go through. All right, Ms. Riggs, so we'll go ahead and get you started.
Okay, good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Moreno, and members of the audience. Today, as Dr. Moreno said, was our public hearing for our proposed budget and tax rate. As we start, if you have any questions, like Dr. Moreno said, please feel free to ask questions as we go. Next, we start, as we start building a budget, we look at our enrollment, we look at our tax rates. So first, let's look at our enrollment. Last year, our actual ADA was 2,089. And so because of the uncertainty, if you look at our, because of the uncertainty, we felt that it was the best and most conservative approach that we budget this next year based off of an ADA of 2,089. Next. And that's just the chart to show that, you know, We're budgeting the same way. You can see from 1920 that our ADA went down from 2345 down to the 2089. And because it's really hard to know, especially with the Delta variant right now, I felt that this was the most conservative approach to the budget this year. Next. So this slide, I've shown it multiple times. This is just to show that our enrollment has decreased by 5.8% in fiscal year 21. We saw the biggest decreases in our elementary schools and our intermediate schools. Next. Our tax rates.
And Ms. Riggs,
Yes, sir.
and when you, again, go to all of the different, when you get to the portion of the tax rate, just to be clear with our community on this is, again, and when you give the different areas, so for example, 54 cents, different options that you have within it. Again, the ideal of the 54 cents is that that's when you would, at this point, be completely, well, you get to a balanced budget in that area. So when you get to that area, just make sure that you stress that so everyone understands that, please.
Okay, yes. So this chart is the historical and current certified property values. For our certified values ended up being $672,759, which ended up being an increase of 2.58%. Next. So as part of the first ratings, we're required to have a discussion of certified values. So this slide fulfills that requirement and should be noted in the agenda minutes. So the first column I have shows 2020, 2021, and then the proposed budget. And you can see what our certified values have been for the last 3 years, what our M&O rate has been, and on the last proposed budget, my proposed M&O rate is 1.0436. You can see what collections have been over the last 3 years and what I'm proposing. And then you can also see the difference in state aid. We went from 16.5 in 2020 to 17.9 in 2021, and now we're down to 16.7 in 2022. And that decrease is because of the reduction in ADA. Next. So our current and proposed tax rate. Our M&O tax rate for the 2021 year was 1.0444. The INS tax rate was 50 cents for a total tax rate of 1.5444. For this upcoming school year, I am recommending and proposing an M&O tax rate of 1.0436 and 52 cents for the INS rate, which we'll discuss in further detail later on in the presentation, for a grand total of 1.5636. Next. So this chart just shows you how the M&O tax rate has trended for the last 10 years. We were at $1.17 for 7 years, and then we went down through House Bill 3. They required us to compress the tax rate so that the state could kick in more state funding. And so we were at $1.06 to $1.04, and now I'm recommending the $0.0436. Next. And then on the flip side, on the INS side, you see that over time that has increased to 50 cents where it's been the last 2 years, and then I am proposing a 52-cent increase in our INS tax rate.
But that would be at minimum 52.
Yes, at minimum 52. And so once we get to the INS, I'll tell you why a minimum of 52 is recommended. Next. So for our historical tax rate, you can see the ratio of INS to M&O. And so that just shows the total tax rates for each year. Next. So the tax effect on the average residence. So the 2020 column has the average market value of a residence at $80,554. That has increased to $88,974. The average taxable value of a residence was $53,552, and it's increased to $59,038. And then when you take the proposed tax rate that I'm proposing, the 1.5636, the average taxes due on a residence is $923.12, which is an increase of $96.06. Now, keep in mind of that, the average taxpayer was going to see an increase regardless of the increase in INS tax rate because the average value and appraisal of the houses has gone up. Next. Now, I want to talk more about and really focus right now on the maintenance and operations tax rate. Now, this chart that you see here was on the notice of public meeting to discuss budget and proposed tax rate that was published on the paper on August 13th. And so if you look at the M&O tax rate for last year, that rate was $0.0444. The rate to maintain the same level of revenue is 1.041840. Now, my proposed rate, what I'm proposing, is 1.0436. That number is lower than the rate to maintain. Higher than the rate to maintain, I'm sorry, it's higher. Now, the rate to maintain, what does that mean? That is the rate that I would have to impose to generate the same amount of revenue I generated this last year. So the rate is a little bit higher than that rate. However, the rate is lower than last year's tax rate. And I know that's very confusing because it looks like I'm lowering the rate, but because that rate to generate the same amount of taxes is slightly lower than the rate I'm proposing, in truth and taxation and in the eyes of the state, I'm actually increasing taxes. And so, if you adopt the 1.436, I would need for 60% of the governing body to approve the tax rate. And the board would have to know that we are raising taxes for maintenance and operations, and that the tax rate effectively will be raised by 0.1689%, and will raise taxes for maintenance and operations on a $100,000 home by $1.76 for the entire year. Does anyone have any questions on that? Does that kind of make sense?
Well, again, this is an opportunity because it's a hearing, the community can ask questions, if there's anybody.
Anyone from the audience can come up. Correct, sir?
Correct.
Ms. Riggs, can you please repeat the total amount for the year?
The whole amount?
Yes, ma'am.
So this tax rate will effectively be raised by 0.1689% and will raise taxes for maintenance and operations on a $100,000 home by approximately $1.76.
But that's in the M&O side, correct?
That's on the M&O side.
Thank you.
If there are no questions, I will move on to the next slide. So now we talk computation. Next. So I'm sorry? Was there a question?
No.
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry, it must have just been, we're still evaluating class sizes, even though school has started, so we're gonna look to see if we can move teachers from one grade level to another. The facility is doing a wonderful job looking at our class sizes. Unfortunately, due to ADA and enrollment uncertainty, we are not recommending raises at this time. And just as a reminder, retention incentives will be funded from ESSER 3 over the next 3 years. Next. So we consolidated Ortiz Intermediate, and that resulted in $548,000 worth of salary savings. Most of that came from the general fund, but $12,000 did come from title and $50,000 did come from the food service fund, which is really good because we are experiencing a budget deficit there. Additional savings could result from utilities. However, those savings may be minimal because we do have to keep the HVAC system on so that we can prevent deterioration of the building. Next. Now, on June 25th, the board was wonderful, and you allowed us to provide stipends for our employees for the next 3 years, $2,500, which will be paid out in 3 installments each year, $1,500 at the beginning of the year, which has been done this year, $400 in December, and $600 at the end of the school year. Now, we understand that we can't give raises, but we acknowledge that our employees have been phenomenal during the year. They have worked hard. They probably worked the hardest they've ever had to work. And so we're recommending that we pay all full-time employees an additional $1,000 stipend for this school year. It would be for this school year only. Next year, hopefully, our ADA goes up and our finances change, and so that we can offer a raise. We recognize that the payment is not TRS eligible, but it is equivalent to a 2% of midpoint raise for teachers, and it provides additional compensation that would otherwise not be available under our current financial condition. Next. So how would that work with our other stipends? So we would pay out $1,500, which we've done. We would pay out $600 before the Thanksgiving break, which would be super helpful for Thanksgiving dinners, Black Friday, travel. Then we would hand out our $400 at the Christmas break. And instead of getting $600 at the end of the school year, employees can expect a $1,000 check for a total of $3,500. Next.
Ms. Riggs, though, can we stress though again, the additional 1,000 is a one-time for this year?
Yes, it's a one-time. We're hoping that next year our financial condition changes and that we can look at possibly giving out raises next year that are TRS eligible. So right now, this stipend is for this year only.
And this money's coming from that $500,000 that we talked about at ESER 2, correct?
It's
For
part of,
possible?
Out of ESER school.
yes.
And so here we have salary increases for the last 8 years. And you can see, I know it's not a raise, but as far as term, normally a 2% raise is about $1,000 for teachers. So our stipends this year are probably the biggest raises or payouts the district has seen in quite a while. And then I just wanted to note that in 2021, we did increase the bus driver starting pay to $20 an hour. Next. So since we are not giving a raise, the teacher scale does change a little bit. Our starting pay moves down a little bit to $41,613 or $41,613 because we did want to show a differentiation between 0 and 1. However, all of our new teachers who were hired, I believe there were 6, they were all hired at the $41,813. Next. And so unfortunately, as every year, our TRS rates did go up. In the column, in the 5th column, you can see the change in the dollar amount. And in the very last column, you'll see that 3 of the 4 benefit plans did not change, but the TRS Active Care HD plan did change. Next. Now, we are recommending some changes to compensation for our substitutes. So for our teachers, our substitutes for our substitutes who are non-degree, right now we currently pay long-term and short-term substitutes $70. We are proposing to pay our short-term subs $80 and our long-term subs $85. Now, long-term means a period of 11 or more consecutive days subbing for the same teacher. For our degree substitutes, we currently pay $80 and $95, and our proposed rate is $95 for short-term and $100 for long-term. For our degree and certified substitutes, we currently pay $90 for short-term, $100 for long-term. We are proposing $100 for short-term and $105 for long-term. The rates for RN and LPN stay the same. We do have an increase for food service from $7.25 to $9.48. And then for our paraprofessionals that are subbing for special ed, we are recommending increasing the rate from $70 for short-term and long-term to $75 for short-term and long-term. Next. One of the things that we're doing this current year in preparation for the budget for 2023 is we are partnering with TASB to have a pay systems review and a staffing review. As far as pay systems, they'll look at all our stipends, they'll look at our teacher scale, our administrative scale, paraprofessional, manual trades, and they'll compare that to the market. And then they'll give us a plan as to what we can do to be more competitive and how much that will cost us to do that. As far as staffing, they'll look at all areas of the district to see how we compare to others our size. And they'll give us recommendations on how we can become more efficient. And this is gonna be really important because, right now, our budget situation is hard, but we're very fortunate that we have ESSER money. We can't count on the ESSER money, and if our ADA and our enrollment does not increase, we're gonna be in a world of hurt going forward. And we're gonna have to reduce expenditures, and that's gonna have to be in the form of employees. So it's important that hopefully we don't have, hopefully our ADA and our enrollment that bounces back to pre-COVID levels. But in the event that that does not occur, we need to be prepared to figure out how we can make our system, our district, more efficient. Next. Our general fund debt obligations. So this coming year, we have our bus installment, our Mercedes-Benz. The great thing about that is $61,000, but it's our last year. Then we have our HVAC retro lighting. We have 2 issuances, and so those, one is $226,000, and the other one's $255,000, and those still are on the books until 2028. Next. Then we have our maintenance tax note for our field enhancements, and our debt requirement for this year is $342,538.50. Next. So out of the general fund, we're going to be paying $885,684.76 to our debt this upcoming year. Next. Next. So looking at general fund. So most of our supply accounts, as we discussed at the budget workshop on the 9th, we agreed that we were going to drop 5% of most supply accounts. Multiply by 5%, sorry. All employees travel accounts were reduced by 10%, as well as some other miscellaneous accounts that you can find in the Object Code 6400 series. Budget managers will not be allowed to move travel funds to other accounts. Enter this last fiscal year, a lot of travel account money was moved to supplies and other accounts. So I'm hoping, and it's my thought process, that because a lot of that travel money wasn't used for travel and it was moved to supplies, that our departments and campuses should have supplies available for this upcoming year. And those reductions of the 5 and 10% saved us approximately $90,000. Next. So in the big part that's colorful, you'll see what the campus allocations were. Excuse me. Campus allocations are dictated by projected enrollment. So at Snapshot in October, our projected enrollment was 2601. This does have 2604 because when I looked at OPs and I moved kids to their feeder schools, there's kind of a variance of 3 children. So I gave each school 1 additional child. And then the little small chart off to the side, it shows after those reductions what each campus received. So like for high school, the initial allocation was $377,340, and they ended up with $374,107. For Crossroads, they went from $73.65 to $71.86. For steel, they went from 113,676 to 110,89. And then for San Pedro, they went from 36,565 to 35,598. For Knox Creek, 48,305 to 46,744. And then Robert Driscoll from 91,420 to 87,359. And so that's how the campus allocations were calculated. Next. And for budget departments, you can see, I won't go through all of them, but each of the campuses each of the departments for the most part did see a reduction because of the reductions in supplies and travel. For the tax office, you see a tax increase because as we have more on the roll, they charge us a little bit more. Junior high band and high school band have made a request because it is a competition year and they are going to have more competition, so they requested an increase. Special education, the district-wide, you'll see you'll see an increase of 237. That is the maintenance tax note for our field enhancements. Curriculum instruction had a 10,763 increase. Records management, we increased, there was no budget there before, so we are creating a budget this year. And then testing had an increase as well. Next. Other programs that we fund out of the general fund are JJAEP and our summer school. Originally, summer school, when I had the budget presentation on the 9th, summer school was going to be funded 100% out of ESSER 3. However, we spoke with TEA, Ms. Hill spoke with TEA, and out of state comp, we are required out of the general fund to fund the end of course summer school at the high school level. So that's why we are funding 38,500. And I apologize in advance. There's another little portion of the screen that's not here, but I am also requesting $25,000 to be set aside for the purchase of a cargo van, because we currently have Big Red, and Big Red is he's running out of gas. So we're hoping to purchase a new cargo truck, and I apologize that was not there. In addition, we purchased a van trailer last year for this current fiscal year for Mr. Cabrera for the vans, and so we like to brand it, and so we are setting $10,000 aside so that we can wrap the van trailer with our logo and our colors. And again, that should have been another little box on this slide, and I apologize that it wasn't there. Next. So when you take into account our tax rate and our enrollment, we have a budget deficit of $1,576,250. That is a tax rate again of $1.436 and an ADA of 2,089. Next. But when you take out we take out that amount in salaries, we have a balanced budget. Next. So as a board, you are required to approve the general fund budget by function. And so that's what that would look like. In the first column with figures, that's the proposed budget by function. And the second column is our current adopted budget. So you can see our proposed budget is $27.8 million. Our adopted budget for this last year is $30.2 million. Next. So next we go to the interest and sinking fund. Sorry, I'm just gonna pause for just a quick minute. Okay. So our total outstanding principal for the upcoming school year is $44,186,000. $917,874, of which we have debt requirements for next year of $4,573,506. I am recommending that the tax rate be increased to 52 cents. However, for it to be ideal, for us to have a balanced budget, for us to collect what we need to collect in the interest and sinking fund, through Mr. Tijeras, our financial advisor, through my calculations, we really need 54 cents so that our INS fund generates what it needs to pay off its debt. However, I realize that we may not want to go to 54 cents, although that would be ideal and really what we need to do. So my recommendation at minimum is that we go to 52 cents. Now, our estimated fund balance at August 31st, 2021, the end of this month, is $374,808. Now, we did get really lucky. Originally, my estimate was $214,000, as was posted on the notice. As you know, that one of our bonds is a, trying to think of the word, it's a capital appreciation bond. And so some of that debt service is paid through the IRS. And so we normally have to send in an 8038 tax form to the IRS, and we get reimbursed those funds. Well, the last two bond payments, we hadn't received those in a timely manner. In fact, the one from last August, we received this June. And so I didn't know when we were gonna receive that. If we didn't receive it within 60 days, I wasn't gonna be able, tax rules, GAAP rules, I wasn't gonna be able to set it up as a receivable. But the good thing is, Mr. Tijerina and Ms. Young, our financial advisors, they got a hold of Bank of New York Mellon, and they really pushed, and we got our subsidy before the end of the fiscal year. So that's why our estimated fund balance is higher than what I posted in the notice. Next. And so just for illustration purposes, this is what our current tax schedule looks like. Next. Okay, so now we're going to get into the three scenarios. Now first, in all of these scenarios, this is all based on an ADA of 2,320. Our enrollment right now is 2,365. Is that correct, Mr. Castellano?
Yes, 2,365.
Okay. So on average, we see about 85%. So at current state, our ADA is nowhere near what this calculation was made on. So just keep that in mind as we go through each scenario. So with scenario one, keeping the tax rate the same, we would be short in collections $264,448. Now, the good thing is, we do have the fund balance of 378. So if we actually hit the 2320 in ADA, and we kept the 50 cents, we could use fund balance right now to cover that. If for any reason our ADA goes lower, and we don't have any excess collections, and if the ADA requires higher than 378,000, which is the current fund balance, it's going to require a transfer from the general fund to the INS fund. Now keep in mind, on the general fund side, I do not have a transfer budgeted from general fund to INS. So if that were to occur next year, I would have to come back to the board to ask for a transfer to move over the funds, but then I would also be asking the board a question. Would you let me appropriate funds at that time from the general fund? Or are we just going, to move with the current budget that I have budgeted in general fund, or are we just gonna move funds over to INS? That could set us up for a deficit budget in the general fund if I have to do a transfer. The other thing that we have to keep in mind is, once we move money from the general fund over to the INS fund, that money's never gonna come back. Money put in the debt service fund can only be used to satisfy debt service requirements. So those are just things we have to keep in mind. Next. At 54 cents, 54.23, it is calculated with an ADA of 2320 that the INS fund will generate enough tax revenue to sustain its debt requirements. Next. At 50 cents, we do not generate enough to sustain the debt requirements. However, the amount that we would have to transfer, or the amount that we have to use from fund balance or transfer from the general fund would be less at 131,000. And the number slightly changes from the budget that I put in your packet because we also consider penalties that are imposed for anyone who pays late, and then we look at interest that we could possibly make from our bank account. Next. So I wanted to put in here, this is the, this shows 3 scenarios. It reflects the notice that was in the paper. The top one is the exact notice that was in the paper. It shows the increase in taxes to $1.787. That was with 54 cents. The middle section shows the increase in taxes of 96.06 with a 52-cent increase.
Ms. Riggs, just so I can get some clarity, trustees, what you have in your packet is not what you're seeing up there. Right now, that's Ms. Riggs' calculation, and then she'll go into the financial advisor calculation, which is what you're seeing on page 44 in your packet. Okay, because what you're seeing right now is 155.12 on the right-hand column, and then down 142.32, and then 129.53. So just so we're on the same page. So what she has, you don't have in your hand, unless, I don't know if I have it.
It's not.
I added
that one
slide, and I
here.
appreciate that.
Okay, oh, y'all do have this one. So, this just gives you that same, what she has on the slide itself.
Yes, it's on that same sheet where half the sheet's white and the other half is yellow.
Correct.
This is that top version, the white version.
So how did that amount drop so much?
I'm sorry, sir?
How did that, amount drop that much?
So at the very bottom, that is with the 50 cents. The 84.25, that's what our taxpayer would have seen with $1.436, which, like we talked earlier, in the eyes of, the eminent rate is kind of raising taxes. So that 84.25 is if we adopt it with the 50-cent tax rate. Now, when you go up to the next level, with the middle of the page, the 52 cents, that's an increase of $11.81.
Yes, ma'am, I
And if
understand,
you
I
go to the
understand that.
50% level, sorry?
I said, I understand that. My question is, from what we have in our book compared to this other, the amounts drop quite a bit.
So again, Ms. Riggs, to clarify, if you look at what, our financial advisor in his calculations, Piquerina, and if you're looking at the 50 cents, it says 129.53, correct?
Yes, and I
Okay.
can explain that. I didn't understand the question, I'm
Okay.
sorry. On this first slide, I'm taking the tax rate and I'm multiplying it times the average taxable value of residences, which is what the average is. Richard, if you go to the next slide. What Mr. Piquerina did $80,000. And he kind of just wanted to use it as an example of if you took an $88,974 home, you applied the homestead exemption, and then you applied the tax rates to it, that's what they would look like. And so, yes, it does increase it a little bit more. Whereas my calculation was off the average value of the average market value. This is off the actual, this is the homestead exemption off the average market value of the residence. And I know that can be a little confusing.
No,
So that's
I
why
got you.
the amounts changed. So mine's looking pretty much like on average, this is what people can experience. And his is more like on the house of 88,974 minus the homestead exemption. This is what that person's gonna experience. So he provided a different scenario than I did. Now, I apologize, in this whole INS conversation, we do have Ms. Esther Young available on the call. If you have any INS questions, she is available to answer any questions, or Ms. Young, if there's anything that you think I need to address or that I can say differently.
Again,
No.
Esther Young actually works for Mr. Tijerina, who's our financial advisor. Ms. Young?
Yeah, that's correct. So I think Ms. Briggs did a great job of covering what you're looking at with your INS tax rate. So I think one thing that she mentioned that I would maybe just highlight is that for the ADA that she's talking about, you know, none of us know what's going to happen or how that's going to work out. So the one thing to keep in mind is that a 4% increase is obviously very steep and probably not what anybody wants to go out and do. But as your AD climbs, if your ADA continues to decrease, both of those things decrease your state funding. So together, you're going to keep seeing a decrease in your state funding, which is why there's this necessary tax rate increase to keep covering your debt service. And that is not in anybody's control, but that's just something that I wanted to point out, just kind of how the levers work there and what's driving that tax rate.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Next. And so here, again, you have to adopt the debt service budget by function. All of our debt service comes out of function 71. So you see 3 different proposals here. The one in the middle has recommended above, which is 52 cents. That requires, at an ADA of 2320, it requires us to use approximately $144,877 in fund balance. That still gives fund balance. Unfortunately, the only way we can adopt a balanced, or I guess in this case, maybe possibly even a surplus budget, would be going to 54 cents. By not doing so at 52 and at 50 cents, you will be approving a deficit budget. And like this is not something that's ideal. I know it's, it's a very frustrating situation. None of us want to be in it. But as the financial steward for the district, I feel it's in the best interest of the district to increase the tax rate. 54% would be ideal, but I understand that we have various variables that we don't know what the ADA is going to look like. We don't know how tax collections are going to look like. Very difficult with COVID. So at least if we could take the baby step of going to 52 cents would be my recommendation.
And trustees, again, and we'll talk this a little bit more in detail on another line item as well, but that's, looking at the reality of where we are, again, as of today, we're at 2,365 students that are enrolled. 2,365 students that are enrolled. We built this budget off our projection at 2,509. So even then, we're already starting off the low if we don't continue to see some increase. Now, I would say, and if all of you look at this particular document that we and I was going to talk about this a little bit later too, but it shows you how much our campuses, we've already identified all the no-shows. We're already making calls. We're already knocking on doors. You'll notice that the biggest, how it's starting to close. And I'll talk to you a little bit more detail later on in another section. But, so we're heading in the right direction, but we're still not there yet. Okay, we started off the school year at 2,053, and now we're up to 2,365. So those are things that have to be considered also in decision-making, trustees, is that this budget is built on a projection of 2,509. So we're already starting off behind.
And our ADA is gonna be only 85%.
85, so, and this is a very, very rough, actually, do you have that number? Let's just pretend that we ended up at 2,365, what's 85% of that? Ms. Riggs?
If we ended up at what number, sir?
The 2,365, as of today.
365
Mm-hmm.
times 85% is 2,010. I built a general fund budget off of 2,089. So we will already be short.
And that's why we're working so hard right now to try to recover as many students as we can, and of course, in market our district to gain as many students as we can.
Bless you. You need a tissue, sir? Who's me? You need a tissue?
I'm sorry, was there a question I can't?
Yeah, no, no.
Go ahead, okay,
Yeah.
next. So next we go to the child nutrition fund. This one was a little bit difficult to budget. Although there's no state aid, it also goes for ADA because we need the students in attendance to hand out meals in order to generate revenue. As of August 21st, our expenses exceed our revenues by $411,973.54. We are still waiting on that one-time payment of $151,000. I have sent out emails and I just keep being told that that's coming soon. But that they have until January of 2022. So if we get it, hopefully within the first 60 days after the end of the fiscal year, we can definitely ask our external auditor, we can set that up as a receivable, and that will help lower the deficit. It'll be interesting to see what revenues are in August. But as Dr. Moreno stated during our ESSER 2, I have set up $250,000 so that if we need to make it full, we don't look to the general fund, we look to ESSER. Now, as part of the budget amendments that you have before you tonight, there is $250,000 in fund balance out of our summer feeding program. I have verified through the service center that we can transfer that fund balance from Fund 242 to 240 if you grant me that ability. So I'm requesting that we move $200,000 in fund balance because we need to keep something in the summer feeding program, especially if we move to the SSO plan, which is our plan. Because if we do, we'll be operating out of Fund 242 for the year. But it's my recommendation that we move $200,000 in fund balance from the summer feeding program to the child nutrition fund. And then whatever doesn't get covered out of current fund balance and that additional $200,000, we get it out of ESSER 2. Now, I'm hoping that at the end, we don't have to use any of our ESSER 2 monies to help make the child nutrition fund whole, but we have that ability. And later on, down the road, if we do not use the ESSER 2 funds to make the child nutrition whole, those funds will be allocated in a different manner, and we will, of course, take that to the board to notify you of what our planned use is for those funds. And so, in trying to create a budget, I'm proposing total revenue at $2,551,419 and total expenditures of the same amount, so that we have a balanced budget. And so you have to adopt it by function. And so although the chart doesn't look like the other charts for debt service and for general fund, you can see the bulk of it is $2.3 million out of function 35, food services, and then $165,000 out of function 51, which is plant maintenance. Next. And so that concludes the tax rate and the budget, proposed tax rate and budget. Does anyone have any questions?
Again, with not only trustees, but community, this is part of the public hearing, so if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Riggs. Any questions? No? Next item on the agenda, 7, informational items.
Trustees, just as, for your information, again, as a reminder, the TASA TASB convention is 2021, September 24th through the 26th. It is in Dallas, so please make sure that you let Irma know if you're interested in attending the conference. Also, it was brought to my attention that homecoming is during that time, so I've had a conversation and we'll have to look at another date for homecoming for that. So just to let all the trustees know. On the superintendent updates, I do have Kelsey who's going to be here to help present our marketing plan. But trustees, at this point, if I can ask you to please take out this document, which we already talked about briefly, but it's just to show you that we're keeping daily tabs as far as our enrollment is concerned. And then from enrollment, of course, we start to tie it back to our average daily attendance. But this is a critical document. You notice we already have all the days set. So every day, we'll be reviewing as far as how we're moving along, if the needle's moving as far as enrollment is concerned.
Sir,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Lopez and Mr. Patu have
I
this?
believe, Irma, they also should have got this in their email, correct? In their email?
Thank you, Irma.
And then trustees, just another data point that we keep as well. Not only do we look at the overall on enrollment on a daily basis, but then I also have a document that we keep track of by grade level, by school as well, for data point to see where we need to continue closing, but also areas of celebration where we're meeting our target goals. So knowing where we are right now and that we're every single day trying to continue to recoup more of our students and continue to try to aim for that at minimum 2,509, which I've been saying 2,510 students, so we can keep on track. We have also our marketing campaign, which I'm going to have Ms. Kelsey Cook come on up. And Kelsey's going to share with you and our community all the efforts that we're taking on top of what we're doing as far as knocking on doors and calling on a daily basis.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Moreno. I'm here before you this evening to discuss some of the marketing initiatives that have taken place before the kickoff of the school year. So I don't believe that you have this in front of you, so if you want to look with me, I need glasses for my glasses to try and see this, but I'm going to go over this timeline with you. So first and foremost, last time I spoke, we were planning the block walk. So we did conclude having the block walk, and that was such a fun event with a lot of administrators and support staff. We did literally go knocking on doors of students to try and talk to them, let them know that we missed them. We were excited for school to start. We wanted them sitting in our seats in our school. So we did visit 120 student households that evening in just a little over an hour and a half. So as you can imagine, that was a lot of steps that we got in on our Apple Watches and Fitbits, but it was definitely worth it because we got to present our students at that time with some goodie bags, the registration information, a flyer about our cotton closet, and just some snacks and things to get them excited about the upcoming school year. So we did deem that event a success. Then rolling forward, July 25th, 2021, we did purchase 2-minute television commercial slots that aired on KIII TV3, the Domingo Live segment, and those commercials did air on Sunday, July 25th, and also again on Sunday, August 1st. And it was special to us because the Education Foundation did agree to sponsor that, and we just felt that that was a big community push to target a lot of those viewers and again, target parents prior to the start of school about Robstown ISD. Then after that, July 30th, 2021, 130-second radio spots aired on Magic 104.9 radio station. And that ad was a 30-second slot that talked specifically about enrollment, focusing on the 2 bookends that we have here at Robstown ISD from birth to college. We got you, and that means that we offer a full day free pre-K3, pre-K4 program, and then our other bookend with our early college high school, offering that associate's degree or up to 60 credit hours at no cost to students or their families. So 2 bookends within that enrollment ad. After that, we did purchase a television commercial package. That was purchased with KIII TV. Within that package, there were 22 broadcasted television spots. There was a 30-second commercial and also a 1-minute commercial. That's already been airing since August 15th, and that's on KIII TV and also their sister station, MeTV. Within that package, there's also another component. TV commercials, we're streaming on that. So what that is Premion. That's an internet streaming service that KIII also owns. With that, that's if you have something like a Roku device or you have a Fire Stick and you're streaming your television through those services. They're actually able to target households that have school-aged children. So not only are we targeting them on TV, but we're also targeting them through internet streaming TV as well. And then the third component of that package actually targets individuals using their mobile devices. So with that, it's addressable. They call it geo-targeting. So they have analytics and they know if the individuals, the mobile users, actually have school-aged children. So if they're searching or Googling terms like education, enrollment, if they're looking, and that's a hot topic right now because we know not only are people researching enrollment, but they're also researching maybe virtual learning, in-person learning, any kind of keyword that has to do with education. So once they leave, they are done with their Googling, they are actually able to geo-target them, and that means that they're seeing advertisements on their cell phones, and those advertisements are our school district. And I'll show you what that looks like in the next couple slides. After that, we didn't forget, we knew our enrollment was our big push, so we're also doing different initiatives to embed that weekly and daily into our activities. So weekly, Skylar phone calls are still going out. A script was created for administrators to read from at their campuses that talks about registration information. So Skylar phone calls are still going out. Weekly, we're still using our social media pages to try and target and then retarget and remind people about enrollment. Content has been created and posted with registration dates, a QR code to directly link them to our website, and of course, first day of school information, etc. Then there was also a Facebook Live video. It was a 9-minute video of the on-site registration that took place at the high school. It was showing parents the stations, what they can expect when they get there. And then it was also showing some of our employees actually physically helping people get registered. So we're saying if you're not here, you should be here or make plans to be here. So a pretty cool Facebook Live video. And then also our TV commercial, we did actually put that on our Facebook page. And I will tell you, it had a lot of community support. It had a lot of shares, and I think it was a really big point of pride that our community was really proud to see. So I can tell you that did definitely have a lot of positive feedback. And then, of course, the official hashtags, everyone has to have one of those. So, in addition to the My Choice and the Robstown Proud, we have also adopted the I Choose Robstown as part of our social media campaign. So, not only is Robstown ISD my choice, but I choose to be here, I choose to be kind, I choose to participate, I choose to be prideful, so it can be incorporated in a lot of different ways. And then, of course, daily, we are utilizing our district website, and from there we have had a homepage alert set up. We also have the marquee image scrolling on our webpage. You'll see the little kids, they look very cute with their little graduation hats on. Just redirecting them to our registration page. And then, of course, it's also shared under our latest news as well. And so let's look at specifically what is geo-targeting, how are we utilizing it, and what can we do with it, and what does that look like. So you'll see here there's a map of Robstown. It's actually specifically pinpointed to a 5-mile radius. So you'll see here not only is it reaching Robstown, it's reaching parts of Alquete, Calallen, Toloso Midway, and then of course down Highway 77 as well. So very tailored and very specific. Then these are those Google Analytics that I shared with you. So they are actually able, even if you go to our website, robstonisd.org, and you leave our website, and we know that you have school-aged children. Now when you go back through your internet browsing and your searches and your Facebook ads, this is what you see for those banner sample ads on your cell phone. So pretty cool, because those are our students, that's our logo, and you're seeing that when you're scrolling on your mobile device. Any questions about marketing?
I've got a question. You mentioned 120 students that you went on a block walk. Of those, how many did you recover? Did you get an amount?
So we are keeping track of that. I know of those, I don't have a number identified yet of how many were recovered, but we will revisit and get you an official report on that.
Okay, in total, from when you started marketing to date, how many have you recovered?
So I believe, sir, he shared we are pending.
We start off at 2,053, and then again, currently we're now at 2,365. Yeah.
That's a good percentage. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Trustees, the next item is ESER 2 overview, funding plan, and grant application. Ms. Riggs, is this another presentation we need to conduct, or is that also what we've already reviewed?
This was reviewed already, sir.
Okay. So trustees, then we'll move on to Robstown ISD food service update. We wanted to give all of you, we're ecstatic. I mean, I'll tell you what, walking our cafeteria right now smells great, it looks great, and at this point, Mr. Teeger here. Come on up, Mr. Teeger, and jokingly, I didn't know if Teeger was his first name or his last name, but it's his last name. So Mr. Teeger is our food service manager here for our school district, and he's going to give us a brief presentation and update on our plan. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Madam President, Board Trustees, and Dr. Moreno. So even though we're only about 2 weeks into the school year, we're definitely have a lot of updates to give you. So I wanted to just kind of jump right into the updates and just kind of let you know what exactly we've been doing the past month in the last 4 days. Next slide, please. The clicker. Oh, it's clicker. Oh. Okay. So one of the things we actually did prior to starting the school year is we had an onboarding for the staff members. And it was broken into 2 different days. The first day, we had the managers and the assistant managers, and then they covered all the topics that were listed there. So we had topics that included culinary, line segment presentations, safety, production records, inventory, recipes, and then of course they have to do silver rights training. And then after we had the initial training with the managers and assistant managers, we actually had a follow-up with an all-staff meeting. And a lot of the same topics were covered on the second meeting. And the idea of the second meeting was actually to have the managers and the assistant managers train their staff. So they saw a lot of the same material the second day, but we want them to make sure that they feel comfortable enough to be able to train their staff on the topics that we covered for the second day. So we have some more pictures of the training. So this is obviously it's more of the culinary aspect of it. We had a pretty extensive SFP opening team. So some of the people that came out to help with the onboarding process with the staff is we had Matt Haas, who is the director of area operations, so he's here with Robstown ISD. We had San Sheets, he was from Alamo Heights, also director of family nutrition. We had Myra Perez, nutrition coordinator from Uvalde. We had Chef Gabriel Gonzalez from Lyford. Then we had Chef Nicole Davis, who is the district chef for Robstown ISD, and we had myself. So one of the things we also did is we had someone assigned from the opening team at one of the schools. They were assigned prior to the school starting, so they were there to kind of walk through any questions that the staff members might have, and also just help them through the whole process of opening. Because we do things a little differently, so it's not a complete new process to the staff members, but we wanted to make sure that we had actually a designated person at that location to make sure that the staff feel comfortable and supported from the SOP. So they were there for a day prior to school starting, and then until Thursday or Friday of the opening week. So of course, one of the big things we were trying to, or we wanted to really kind of showcase, the staff did an amazing job and really took onto it, is the presentation. So before you even try the food, the food has to be visually appealing. So one of the things that the staff did an amazing job was making sure that the salad bars, they were very colorful, they really popped the eye. Not just the salad bar, the food, but on top of that, we like to do decorations. We have the kale, we have some fruits, some veggies, really make sure that the serving line is, or the kitchen is somewhere that the students really want to be involved in, and they really like doing. So we have some pictures here. We have one of the pictures from the left is Lots Beach Elementary. Then we have one in the middle, which is Robert Driscoll. Then we have one on the right, which is St. Pedro Elementary. And but we have some more pictures here. So we have Robstown Early College High School, and the top is actually homemade enchiladas.
I was about to ask what that was.
Yeah, homemade enchiladas, cheese enchiladas, so from scratch. And then on the right we have Steel Junior High School, and then one of the really popular items there, no surprise, is the pizza. So we have the pizza there, we have cheese pizza, pepperoni pizza, and at the top of the pizza we also have the salad too. So there. And of course we knew you guys really wanted to make sure we got feedback from the students, so it's never too early to get feedback. So actually what we did on Friday is we got some feedback from new menu items that we actually rolled out today at Robstown Early College High School. And so the items were, we had homemade pancakes, so I'm a little tired, so sorry, it's a little early helping with that. So we had homemade pancakes with strawberry topping, and also had a Hawaiian topping. So on Friday during lunch, the students had the opportunity to try those items and give us some feedback. We actually have the results right here. So it's on a scale of totally rocks, pretty cool, maybe, and then no way. So for the strawberry pancakes, the strawberry topping, there's 25 totally rocks, 7 pretty cool, and 3 maybes. And then from the strawberry the whole grain homemade pancakes we have with Hawaiian toppings, there's a 31 totally rocks, and then 7 pretty cool, and then 1 no way. Okay. And then one of the big things we actually started implementing this week is we're no longer doing BIC in the classroom, breakfast in the classroom for the high school. We decided to make the change to actually having the students come to the line. One of the reasons we like to do this is because it does offer more options for the high school students. High school students typically have a little more liberal taste buds. They're a little more adventurous. So what it does, it allows us to add different options with different kind of taste to it. So it also kind of eases the operations, so then we can do a little more of the homemade stuff at the high school level. So then we can do some of the stuff that's listed up there, like the pancakes which we did today. Tomorrow we're doing the breakfast tacos. And Monday we're doing biscuits and gravy. So there's a lot more of those homemade options for the high school students to make it a little more exciting for them. It also allows us to have multiple options. Daily BIC, they get served one option, versus if we do it through the line, they also the option of having multiple options for breakfast. And then it does help kind of entice the students to come through the line. It's hard, definitely, as students get older, to kind of have them have breakfast. So this gives us the ability to try to make it a little more exciting for them. I know for me, at least when I was in high school, I rarely ate breakfast. So we really want to try to make sure that those kids are really excited to eat breakfast, because we know they need that nourishment to learn. So this is one of the things that allows us to do. Okay. And then one of the things we actually started this Friday, we had our first food service Friday. So I don't know if you saw the post. And we wanted to showcase the taste testing that we did at the high school. So that was with the homemade pancakes with the strawberry toppings, and then also the Hawaiian toppings. So that was the first one. We want to do this every Friday, just to highlight something that we did for the week, and then also something that we want to maybe highlight what we're going to do moving forward. So some of the upcoming things we want to do is in September we want to start having mini planning committees. So more of the focus groups for the high school, junior highs, and the elementaries, making sure we're not just having a survey, but we're also having more of a conversation with the students to really allow them to give us feedback and just kind of write it on the survey. One of my favorite things is the roving chef classes, which is also the cooking classes, where we can do like personal pizzas and frozen salads, pasta dishes. It's typically a smaller class of about 8 students. You get a chef pass, you do a little tour around the kitchen, they get a recipe card, they learn a little about nutrition, just like a fun little 45 minutes to an hour class. And then of course we want to do more taste testings, and we want to and do more surveys.
Awesome.
I believe that's it.
Trustees, any questions for Mr. Tinker?
I just have a comment. I know that, on our social media page, there was a lot of great feedback from the community. Other districts that did it, we did it, and they just really, from what I saw, it was great feedback from the community. Lots of shares on our Facebook page.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
What are you feeding us tonight?
Yeah, of course.
I hope it's not pizza.
I can change it out real quick.
Okay, sir, next.
Ms. Riggs, again, trustees, the next item is list of bills. If you have any questions on list of bills, and then we go into financial statement report. Okay. Are we good to move on, trustees?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Then now we go into consent agenda item. Yes, anything on the consent agenda, correct.
Next item, consent agenda items. Do I have a motion? I have a motion from Bobby to approve consent agenda items. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Cesar. Any questions?
Consent items or just
It's the,
informational items?
Consent agenda item.
it's the whole section, correct, sir?
Correct.
All of section 8.
Of 7.
All of 8.
Section 8. 8.
Do I have any questions? No questions, sir? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Did he oppose?
No, I think everybody.
Everybody said aye?
Yes.
Miss, I'm sorry, Bertha's not here for this vote. So 6, and then 1 with, I say we're gonna move forward. Okay, next item on the agenda, governance.
Trustees, in your packet you had, and this is from a previous board meeting, the update 117, which affects 3 policies. This is affected the following local board policies: CH, CV, and DEC. Were there any questions for those specific ones, trustees? And again, your packet reflects what the recommendation was from TASB.
These are TASB's recommendations, correct, sir?
Correct.
On a local policy.
Correct.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve, item A under governance, as recommended by TASB for, the local policies as listed.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second from Larry. I'm sorry, a first from Cesar and a second from Larry. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Bertha's backing, ma'am. Thank you, Bertha. Motion passes. Next item, B.
Trustees, would like to discuss and consider approval of TASB delegate and alternate to the 2021 TASB Delegate Assembly in Dallas, Texas on September 24th, 2021 through September 26th, 2021. And trustees, this is where you have an opportunity, if you go to page 83 of your agenda packet. And Irma, please correct me if I'm wrong, but they get an opportunity to elect someone from the team, correct? Okay, for whoever's attending.
Well, in the past, it's always somebody new, correct, Bertha? The first one. And so I think we should change that verbiage to voluntold.
We've already been there.
I've been there.
I've been there too.
I would like to nominate Bobby.
This is for what, sir?
Sir, we have to have somebody, correct?
What is
We
this?
have to have a delegate and an alternate. Mhm. Where instead of going to the regular classes, it's a delegate class. And that's the one that gets all the updates, correct, sir?
Correct.
I mean, it's kind of fun, I liked it, but I'm a nerd like that. But we're nerds like that, it was interesting.
Well, there you go.
I'll nominate Cesar.
I'm
What's
sorry?
So I'll nominate Cesar.
So what, I can't hear him.
You say you nominate me?
Oh, okay, so I have a nomination for Cesar to be our delegate from Larry, and I have a second from Bobby.
Thanks, guys.
Any questions?
you, Cesar.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you, Cesar, congratulations. Now we need an alternate.
I nominate Harry.
I have a nomination for Larry Cantu for alternate from Cesar. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Bobby. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Cesar.
You're welcome.
Next item on the agenda, action. Go ahead.
Trustees, the next item is discuss and consider approval of modifications or revisions to the Robstown ISD Board Operating Procedures. And trustees, again, I want to congratulate you because, again, this was a document that everybody worked on to be able to approve together. But like I mentioned before, it's a living, breathing document. So this is really what helps all of our trustees, as well as myself, within the process of just having a set roadmap and what are the do's and don'ts within the roles that we play. If you look at page 95G, 95G, this is one of the recommendations that was made a while back, and we wanted to make an adjustment to that. Actually, it was a discussion when we got this approved that needed to be taken out, and we hadn't taken that particular one out. If you go to G, on page 95, it says technology such as cell phones will not be used during a board meeting. Cell phones used during an open meeting are subject to open records request. Open records request, that's just providing you information and awareness, trustees, but I think everyone agreed that, you'll be, it's through your professionalism, that would not be an item that you felt that was necessary. So if everyone's agreement, we were gonna take out letter G.
Well, that's already been voted on, so we're just updating it.
Taking it
Yes.
out, I guess that just opens it back up to having their cell phone on, recorded, no matter how many times we say, we know it's unethical, but they can have their cell phone during executive or play back what's discussed in executive to their buddies and friends or family. That's all okay then, is that what we're saying?
Well, this was already approved. We just,
No.
this was already approved.
Okay,
The way
that's
to
a
take
good
it out.
question, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Mr. Lopez, what was discussed and approved before is that we were gonna just police ourselves. We were gonna hold ourselves accountable.
I guess, that's not even the case either.
Yes, well, it was
You
already,
can sit back and you can sit back and watch a meeting before, the one after that, and you have board members recording what's going on, or taking calls, or with their cell phones on while other people are talking, so I guess it doesn't even get policed. I guess it's one of those, neither here nor there.
Are you referring to open session or executive session?
I'm just discussing cell phones, period, in general, and
So-
the
so-
board member while we're at a meeting.
So the same thing goes for as virtual, when computers are off, we on this side don't know if the member on the other side has a cell phone or not, because technically you're still part of this meeting. So, it's both ways.
That's why when I make sure I'm virtually, like I am most of the time, you don't see me with my cell phone, up on my ear. Like, I mean,
okay,
this is not an
trustees,
attack on anyone, this is merely a discussion that I'm having with, Ms. Garza and the superintendent.
More in general, so.
so trustees, this item was originally approved without this item. It was just not removed from the document, so we're gonna just finish that.
Updated.
But another one we were gonna answer was the
Yes.
floral arrangement for bereavement of trustees,
And,
immediate family members.
and trustees, we,
Was it added on?
well, no, we don't have that yet, so that's part of what I'm talking about. So for right now, until I find an actual section to tie it into, or we might have to create another section, I just wrote my own notes on page 104, which is the last page of the board operating procedures. And part of what we wanted to clarify, because we noticed that there's not a set procedure. If there's and we want to identify this, what do we consider immediate family? So immediate family, is that just, in an unfortunate situation, is it a husband and wife and children? anyone related to a trustee as far as where, as a district, we'd be able to provide, flowers or recognition. So that's part of what I want to put on the table today, is for us to define what, immediate family would be that would enable us to be able to provide any type of, floral arrangements for families. So again, is it husband, wife, or children, or do we extend that beyond that? So this is just an open discussion item.
I think we were thinking about adding brother, sister, and, I think grandparents, is that correct?
Well, my idea of immediate family is, of course, spouse and children, and only like brother and like sibling, and then grandparents. No aunts, no cousins, no nieces, no
That's what
nephews.
I just said.
I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but I felt it was important that we put this on there, just so that way we're set and there's never question, do we buy flowers, do we not?
It's gonna be done on
Right,
automatic.
it's gonna be done automatic, and now, that way we can all be treated equally.
So we're saying
That wasn't
husband,
done in the past.
husband, wife, children, grandparents,
Siblings.
oh,
Siblings.
siblings, okay.
Siblings,
And I wanna, now that we're talking about page 104. No, yeah, we were talking about 104, but go back to 92. On F, I just wanted to do we have superintendent and or board president. That, an item on the agenda. Because right here it says and.
Oh, I got it.
And or.
You're talking about 92?
Page 92, a letter F.
92, F. What are the other?
I don't see that.
On F, on F,
92.
92, yeah, that's for district legal counsel for me.
yes.
Oh, you're talking about,
It says board
She
standard
said and
behavior
or,
conduct.
it says and.
We're talking about, to,
92, yeah?
for legal counsel, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Oh, she is talking about legal
Yeah,
counsel.
She's just wanting to add the word
Sorry.
or and or.
Okay, got it.
Right.
Yeah, just to,
Yeah, no, it's not for agenda.
just to correct the
Right.
the verbiage on
I'm
that.
sorry, I confused you, it's, yeah,
So she is talking about the legal counsel.
right, right.
You get that one?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so then you're gonna just remove that one about the cell phone, sir, and then you're gonna come back to us to add
Yes,
that other one?
and I'll add language, and the next meeting I'll bring you back the one on any type of flower.
Okay, so did we make the motion to remove it? Do we have to, since that was already done?
That was, it was,
I wouldn't think we have to.
Okay. So we'll move on to section D. Correct?
I just have one more, just throw it out there, what y'all think, and I don't think we discussed this, I'm on page 104.3. If the concern involves, this is on board operating procedure violation. When it's regarding a member, it's the president that can speak to that member about conduct. But as far as the president or any board, I guess they're talking about just the president here, it doesn't say about any other board member.
See, I was kinda confused on that, but I think what it's mentioning, like if we had a complaint about Ms. Garza,
Then you
we
go
would
to-
address it with Mr. Cantu.
Well, and I want another option, I'd like an option to say, or two other members. Because that other two members might have concern as well, but the vice president's not available, or.
Well, isn't that just, that's normal? If you have if somebody has a concern about me or any of the officers, you can talk to anyone.
Right, but I just wanted to make.
You wanna note it,
Right,
Okay, well, we can.
So can we
talk-
also add and or other board members,
or other board members.
Actually, that's easy, just put that and or.
Uh-huh.
and or other
That's the easy
trustees?
solution.
Mhm.
Thank you, Bertha,
Yes.
good point. Anything else, trustees?
I think that was it. Mhm.
And we can bring it, we could bring it back, Bertha. If you look at it some more, we can bring
Yeah,
it back.
I kind of went over this, and I was glad to have it, so I was able to look at it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Emma, for doing that for us.
Yes, thank you, Dina. Next item, sir? D?
okay, so just so I'm clear on this one, then we're not gonna, close out the approval of modifications yet, correct? Then we'll come back, we'll correct them, then we'll come back.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sounds good. So Eva, just please make a note of that on that receipt, so we'll come back to that. All right, and let's go to letter D, discuss and consider approval of resolution of the board regarding district provided emergency paid sick leave for district employees. Trustees, if you go to page 106 and 107, and I know this was a topic that was brought up at our last board meeting, so we did some research on the sick leave as it relates to COVID. Now, the state is no longer supporting what they did last year, and actually you as a board actually even extended the time up until the end of June of last year. So in our research, and we looked at other school districts as well as our council, this is one in particular that's being utilized quite a bit, and that's again on the sick up to 10 days if the employee only. So this is only regarding the employee can have up to 10 days of sick leave if they're COVID positive, but if they've been vaccinated. Again, part of always a recommendation is that, again, a good preventative is we're strongly recommending masks in our school district, and we continue to support and recommend the vaccines out there. We can't make anyone take the vaccine, but it's a recommendation as far as what the CDC is recommending. So that would tie into this. So again, the resolution as a whole, and it would be only up until December 31st of 2021, and then we could reevaluate at that time. So the employee would have to be, well, number one, it's only an employee. Number two is that the employee has to have been, already had a vaccine in order to qualify for these.
I'm sorry, there was a 2 dose, it has to be both doses or only one, at least one?
What would be considered fully vaccinated.
So fully vaccinated.
Correct.
But why are
Is
we
this a-
going,
what
why are
is
we
this
going
coming
just to
from?
the end of the?
And this would again,
Why are we going just to the end of the year?
we'll just evaluate, we'll reevaluate at that time. To see where we're at, and again, if the
That's how
trustees,
it was done again, that's how it was done last
Doesn't
year. Remember
segment.
We extended it.
I'm just saying, it's a school year.
So this, you said, sir, this is only if the person themselves is positive?
correct, the employee themselves, it's not for a
if they were-
family member. it's
Not if they
all
were in contact with somebody, they themselves have to be positive.
They themselves.
Is there a mandate to where everybody has to be vaccinated, sir?
There is no mandate,
So why
but,
would you hold accountable the people that don't vaccinate on this issue?
well, this is on top, above and beyond what the school district is there to support. Because again, what we're hearing from the CDC, that's one of the best ways to help to mitigate the virus.
Are we violating rights here?
It's like
No.
it's like an incentive.
Why
It
the
should be
person
separate.
doesn't, why the person doesn't believe in vaccination?
If you go to the top, on page 107, it says except that an employee with a valid medical or religious exemption. Then they can fall within the resolution as well.
So believe falls in religious, like if they believe that they don't want the vaccination, and I know that it's very, I'm not arguing or anything, but we're getting counter that. I mean, if it happens, some people just say, I don't believe in the vaccination.
And if it is a religious exemption, then what happens there, our legal counsel is already prepared to give us documents that other school districts are using that would be signed off from their local church of faith.
So this is a benefit that we don't have to offer.
Correct.
This is coming out of our local fund.
And where the funds on this really is, well, the way we look at it, we already budget for substitutes. So really when it comes down to it, it's not additional funds more than having substitutes for those employees that would require a substitute. So that's why it wouldn't cost us more than what we already planned for.
Do you know what the percentage of our staff that's vaccinated?
Based on our surveys, I'm gonna say roughly about 85%.
We're still at 85, we've been at 85 for a while.
We were at 82, I think 81, 82. And based on our last survey we just conducted, we're about 85. So
How often are we doing those surveys?
we just did one 2 weeks ago.
We've done one since the start of school. Last year, we did an employee survey at 3 different intervals, but so far this school year, we've conducted one.
Are we gonna have another vaccination day?
Tomorrow. Our district is sponsoring a vaccine opportunity for the whole community, not only our employees. And of course, for children, it's 12 and up, 4 to 6 o'clock tomorrow at Hattie Martin.
On this one we're voting on tonight, what is a religious exemption? Do we have a list of religious exemption or?
And it will get more if there's a form that legal will provide, if someone feels it's a religious exemption, they just go to their local, worship, faith, their pastor, priest, whatever, the organization of faith, and they get I think they get verification there, and they bring it to the district.
Compensated the same, they will be compensated the same as the one that's needed, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, they'll be treated the same way. So if they are COVID positive, then they will qualify under this. And that's why, there it goes back to the eligibility. And that's why it's noted in the resolution.
Sir, are other neighborhood schools doing this?
Absolutely.
Are they?
And you're starting to see a little bit more and more coming out recently.
That's good. I mean, I would love to just do it across the board. I would, but I feel we need anything to incentivize this, because I don't wanna lose any more people. No, and I'm sure no one else does.
This just shows that they're taking the
Right.
precautions to not get sick and come to work.
And-
Do other districts have that clause in there? Only vaccinated?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, not, every district may look a little bit different. This is a trending one that's been coming out.
Okay.
Now, also, any employees that, from the time that we started work this year, let's just say that they've already used days and they're fully vaccinated, then we'll just retro for them,
Good.
for this,
We'll give them back
this
their
school
sick
year.
day,
This
their
school.
sick hours.
If they were fully vaccinated, yes.
And this is a policy, or this is CDC, or?
It's a resolution.
Resolution?
Yes,
That we're
because,
adopting?
yes, sir, because then if we were to just do that, then it's considered a gifting of funds. But by going through a resolution,
Okay.
then the board is voted on it, basically, and made it official.
Okay, sir, I'm sorry.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution, as presented by Dr. Moreno under governance item D.
I have a first by Cesar. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Bobby. Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next item, E.
Trustees, this was an item that we have for a discussion item, and all of you are keeping up with the news, and it just seems like sometimes we're playing tennis, we're just going back and forth on certain items. But this is a great opportunity for us to talk about. This item is discussion of Robstown ISD student dress code and COVID-19 response update. So one of the things that you recently heard about is from a school district called Paris ISD. Paris ISD tried to address the mask issue as a mandate in their school district by making it part of their dress code. Well, just like the other mandates that are coming out right now, and at first I think the news headline was that they found a loophole. Well, based on legal counsel, based on what's coming out, even through TASB updates, it's not a loophole. There is nothing, that's still violating with the ordinance from the governor. If you'll notice that I provided you a TASB update, as well as an email from our local attorney, our district attorney, that provides that information. But if you go onto the TASB document, the TASB document on the back, on page 3, could a mask mandate be adopted as a dress code requirement rather than health rule? While we consider the inclusion of face coverings in a dress code within a school district's authority, the governor's executive order appears to restrict this option with its broad prohibition on local mask requirements. The Attorney General has sent a warning letter to all districts identified as having mask mandates, regardless of how the mandate was characterized. So again, the dress code would also not, it wouldn't be another way around it. So right now what you see is the health county, or the health district within our county, about a week and a half ago, roughly, Ms. Cook, or almost 2 weeks, put out a mandate ordinance based on the numbers in the county. You notice that many of the school districts started jumping on board. We even put out a letter immediately after we were given that on a Sunday, and not even about an hour later, it was retracted because the Supreme Court made a decision and basically overruled that decision that they could not even a county health department could overstep on the governor's requirements. So what you're seeing right now on the headlines too is, and it's been a little bit confusing, because you've seen that school districts, are able to wear or mandate masks. I don't know if you've kind of seen that type of headline. What they're referencing though is temporarily, they're referencing is all school districts that have already, taken that to, as a board or a school district, to mandate the masks. So because of the court hearings, as they're continuing to get, there was even one this morning, there's still a window of time that those districts continue to have it, but all those districts already received a letter from the Attorney General. And basically, the Attorney General is stating that you're violating the state ordinance at this point, and part of it is that you have to acknowledge that you are violating the ordinance, and then also knowing that you are, at this point, any district that remains with this mandate would have to also start to pay attorney fees to the Attorney General. Is basically the same, but every district is tending to things just a little bit differently. Kingsville just as early as Friday called an emergency meeting because they wanted to pass their, but that's based on their county health. The way I can tell you this, trustees, I am happy to report that we definitely have over 95–96% of our staff and students that are wearing masks. That's a step in the right direction. It still makes me nervous that we have that 5 to 4% that are not. If as a governing body you choose that, and we all commit to filing a resolution, know that to mandate masks, that is an option for us. But what we would need to do is actually call, and I've already checked, because of the health nature of this particular topic, we could call an emergency meeting. And I know that tomorrow we're going to be working on my appraisal. If that's something the board wants to discuss tonight, we can tie that before the appraisal time, since we're already going to meet anyway. But it's something I wanted to make sure that y'all are informed. This document from our attorney provides a lot of different areas that may answer your questions. I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at it or not. Mandating masks, it gives you all the information. Discipline, again, what you can and can't do. If you've mandated a mask, how we can and can't discipline employees or students. So these are things that are, we need to take into consideration, because this is a hot topic. Every day is discussed, and honestly, trustees, even every week that we meet with a commissioner, there's additional topics, but it's just something that I think every community is feeling in a whole different way. I can tell you this too, we keep up with the numbers every day in the county. Even at the worst of it when it was before, 350 was on average during the summer. Right now we're hitting over 600.
Yes, it was like 710.
I'm not sure about the board.
How many schools around our district that you know of have done this resolution, to mandate it, and have acknowledged to the Attorney General that they're aware of their violation?
I believe right now West Oso, from what I recall, and I don't know, Ms. Cook, if you know of others, they're the only ones I think right now. I know CCISD, when they sent out their letter, we sent our letter out pretty much at the same time. I know Calana was going to be in discussion that particular week, and I don't think they moved forward. I'm not sure what Alice ended up doing.
They're in a different county, so.
Yeah. Are they part of Kingsville?
They're Clayburgh County.
So I think Clayburgh is the one that I think took a health ordinance, and that's all they did is continue to stick to that specific one. So they're gonna wait to see what the next step is from the Attorney General.
But we've been doing real good, and you're highly recommended. I mean, that's your thing.
So
You highly recommend the mask?
Oh yeah, that's been our message to highly recommend it, and our community's been beautiful about it. I mean, they, like I said, most kids are, I wish it was every child, most kids are coming with masks, and when I say 95%, that's my estimate,
And the only thing
and employees as well.
that we mandate, it is very touchy, like, I mean, you go into culture, you go into race, you talk about religion, you talk about, it's just a matter of, I understand that, like you said, we're most of the teachers and administration and students and kids are complying with it. You can soften it up real nicely to where we don't have to say mandate. You understand what I'm saying? I agree that some of our kids or students have to use their mask. But whenever we start using mandate and going against, we start creating a monster to where now it's starting to have to start coming in. It's like it's happening around the area.
Yeah, there's no telling what's gonna go happen from today to tomorrow. I'll tell you what my biggest concern is though, based around it, is that when students or even spectators get to lax even at our sporting events, because sporting events, I can tell you from the last game, I think the volleyball game was about 50% that were wearing masks. and then you start getting, of course, other, of course, our opposing teams are coming in. Those are just things that we have to weigh out. Our daily operations, I feel that, and feedback from our principals, overall, it seems like we're moving forward as far as in that 95% range. It's just we need to continue pushing and pushing that message. Again, in our district, which I love the commitment from all of our team and our nursing staff, we've committed to continue contact tracing, which, although it's not fully being requested now from the state, but they just recently made another adjustment that would lead to contact tracing. So we're already ahead of the game by continuing that process within our staff. But there's additional things that just came up just, from the weekend till now. So we're gonna continue to monitor and do what we need to do. But again, trustees, I just put it out there because my job is to inform you. As a governing body, you will give us a final direction as far as what we're gonna do. If you wanna continue this way, we'll continue to monitor what happens this week going into next week. And if we feel that we're at a point of crisis, and know that that's always an option for us as well.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that we wait for the governor because this is temporary. He's gonna appeal, I'm sure, and then go back to the Supreme Court, and we already know how they're gonna rule. So I believe that if we mandate, then we're gonna go back. We already flip-flopped one time. I don't like the fact that we'd have to do that again. It won't look like we're not doing what we're doing. So I think we need to just wait on what the ruling is on what the governor's gonna do.
And I think as a district, and I just checked right before our meeting, on the district website, I think Ms. Cook said that it was updated as of Friday. Compared to the other districts that we've been seeing, Corpus had like 800, almost, what, like 700. I think it was 37, according to the website.
So far, we've had 13 employees, and we've had 33 students from the day that we started school. Again, and I wanna make sure that we're clear, that doesn't mean that that's in-school transmission. That just means that, and here's another thing, as a school district, we've committed to doing rapid testing. Not all school districts do that. So for us, we catch it a lot quicker in that way, and we're able to get more accurate numbers. So we think that combination is helping us out. But yes, I know some neighboring districts are 2 or 3 times as much.
I saw in the
Almost
news
the same
in Corpus
size.
and the hospital doctors, and they're saying like, let's change our behavior. But he's talking about in general in Corpus Christi,
Yeah,
It's very hard, it's like you said, it's most of
Is there,
it's not
so you're
school
saying that
transmission.
13 employees?
13 employees.
Do we know if they're vaccinated or not?
Yes, what they share with us, and then we also go for verification, yes. And I can't tell you that all the 13, but I can tell you that a good percentage were. So, and again, remember, trustees, when you hear the 600 or the 700, the statistics that we're being given is that that's 600 or 700, or over 90, 91% are unvaccinated. So those big numbers are mostly unvaccinated based on that percentages.
This is a discussion item, so if anybody would like to put this as an emergency meeting, you can contact Moreno or myself, correct, sir? And then we'll go from there.
Yes, but it'd be a good decision to make tonight as far as are we going there or not, because then I'd have to.
You have to announce
get
it
it.
as an emergency.
No, but what I'm saying is it's just discussion.
Yeah, it's just a discussion item
But he
tonight.
wanted an idea from all of us,
Yeah.
how we feel. You know how I feel right now. You know,
I think we're doing okay.
Okay, so kind of what I sense from the trustees is right now, we just continue what we're doing, and then we'll see week to week where we are.
If at any point, sir, like you said, we feel that we would need something like this, we just inform you and.
Yeah, we'll go from there.
we
And
can call
again,
emergency
it's not
meeting.
because we don't wanna do it, it's because our hands are basically tied. We can't do it because the governor is holding us
We'd still be in
accountable.
violation of
Yeah.
the law,
I
but.
believe we should follow the law.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what we
exactly
teach our kids to do. We can just push masks. We'll just continue to do that, sir.
And that is a law we have to abide by. Otherwise, we don't get funded.
Do we agree with them? No, absolutely not. But we gotta follow the law, right?
Exactly.
In my opinion. Okay, sir. Next item, business and support.
And trustees, do you mind, trustees, if I start letting the principals go at this point, or principals? No.
Because they want us to.
Because they want us to.
Thank you, principals.
Thank you for all you do, principals.
All right, so our next action item is discuss and consider consider approval of the Robstown ISD compensation plan. So trustees, we presented a compensation plan before. We've had several meetings also with our finance committee. But again, what we want to do first is you approve that first, because that's part of the budget. And that's something we started doing from the time that I got here, because I've always known that you have to approve a compensation plan as part of the budget. That's a separate item.
Do we do the resolution? Did we even address that?
That's next.
Is it?
For the tax rate?
No, the resolution. Did we not approve it? We didn't approve it, we didn't vote on it.
Oh, the
We
one
did?
for the
Yeah.
sick leave, we didn't.
Oh, we didn't.
I don't
Okay.
think we did.
Yeah,
Oh.
we didn't do it. No, we didn't vote on it.
No.
I don't think we voted on it.
No, we did.
We voted.
Yeah.
Martinez and,
Yeah.
Was that,
Was that for the resolution?
I was there before, yes, ma'am, yeah.
Okay,
Thank
all
you,
right,
I'm
just want to
sorry.
make sure, because we're talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about 9B as in dog.
Yeah, 9E is the one that we're not gonna do.
Which one are we at?
We're on 10A.
Now we're on business support.
Jeff, okay, I just, I mean, I was here, but.
It's all one ten.
I marked it, I'm sorry.
The compensation plan is what was
It's basically
addressed in
all of
public meeting, correct?
Yes, and the compensation plan, remember trustees, that's for what it's gonna be this year, and this year we're gonna have the TASB study, which I know that the plan itself will be evolving after we get the study for next year's compensation plan.
Okay, so I have a recommendation to approve the Robstown ISD 2021, I'm sorry?
What'd you say, sir?
Very much, I guess I'm lagging. I said I make a motion to approve the compensation plan as presented.
I have a motion by Larry, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Hector, any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I still not, I'm not, satisfied on the way they did the stipends, or the AD did the stipends and the coaching staff, they didn't do it across the board. I feel that that's not equality, and, for that reason, I'll probably do I'm gonna vote against it, that I don't want, it's not, I'm not gonna vote against all the budget. That's an item that I see very tender, and I believe that there was no quality on the coaches stipends across the board. So, we can go ahead and vote, that's something I just wanted to make sure for the record that that's what I'm doing, just because.
Can you hear anything, Mr.? I can't hear anything they're saying.
Move it closer.
May, you don't know if the microphone is working, May, or not?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Is there, I'm not happy on the coaches stipends and the way the AD did it. Only the football coaches got some good, healthy stipends, like 2,250 some, and then it just went down, but only the football coaches, they didn't do all the other coaching staff, even, from volleyball or basketball and I believe that that's not equality on my behalf, so I would be voting against it on this time. But all the other budget, I'm okay with it, it's just a matter of the AD stipends.
Are you saying you will not, are you saying you will not be voting on this one, or are you?
I think I would have to vote against it
I'm
because,
not too sure what you're saying, because you start speaking into the microphone for about 30 seconds, and then you sit back, and we can't hear anything you say.
yes, sir, I probably would, what would be the best way to do it, just vote
Mr.
against it?
Mr. Lopez and Mr. Cantu, May does not have a question, he had a statement, and his statement was that he is not satisfied with the stipends across, because there's no stipends across the board. The stipends that he was presented were more top-heavy for football coaches, correct? Correct, Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And that, he was just making his statement, he was just letting us know that he is not satisfied with the stipends, but I personally have a question for Dr. Moreno. So Dr. Moreno, on the stipends, I was under the understanding that the stipends went up in dollar amount because the coaches that are gonna be coaching football in high school will also be the coaches for football in junior high.
Correct.
So for example, I'm looking at a stipend schedule right here. For Seal Junior High head 7th grade coach, a stipend for Seal Junior High head 7th grade and 8th grade coach is $2,250. And for the high school coach, it's 6,000, correct, sir? That's what it was before?
It was before.
So now, if you add them up together, it's 8,250. So there's documentation that I'm looking at that shows it's just a roll-up from school to school. So my question for Dr. Moreno is, sir, so the coaches that are coaching football in high school, are these the same coaches to coach our junior high students?
Correct. That was a strategy, the plan for recruitment purposes for our new AD and trying to rebuild the football program. So that's, again, to be able to attract, that's another way to look at it. But again, that was even reducing some of the staff that he had already listed. And then he just used the same amount of money just within that group, but used it differently, a different plan. The whole goal has been for many years is to have a connection, and we've known this as a deficit of high school connecting to junior high to build a program. This is one of the programs that for years it has not evolved. This is one of the strategies he had to recruit high quality coaches, and this is what the strategy approved, not requiring additional money, but using the same amount of money within it. So now what you have is head coaches coaching high school would also coach the junior high school.
Yeah, but he went all the way from the top, from head coaches all the way to assistant coaches. And my thing is that, example, baseball has junior high also. And we almost had a coach that almost died last year, Elias Vasquez. And I believe that our coaching staff works entirely extra hours for everything for not be considered for any of this, for them to be stagnant at 5,000. And that's one of the things that we talked about, where we're gonna at least upgrade the stipends across the board, not only at the football program. And I understand that he's saying that he's got $50,000 and he spread it out within his coaches. I believe that he should have spread it out around all his coaches to where I believe that there's no equality. But that's on my behalf.
Well, that's a good statement, Mr. Gonzalez, but sir, so a head coach in baseball, for example, in high school, does he or she have the option to coach junior high kids, and if so, do they get an additional stipend for that?
Well, the way the structure has been, there's been a head coach at the junior high. So if you notice, I'm looking at girls basketball. Depending on the schedule of the coach, depending on the content that they teach, all that's taken into consideration when you're looking at who I can combine from the high school to the junior high. So those are all variables that were looked at. So you look at the flexibility of when you look at softball, high school and or junior high gives us that flexibility. But right now, a head coach for softball gets $5,000, and then the baseball is $5,000. You notice other areas on track and field or basketball, those are all $4,000. So there's a variance there already for $5,000 versus $4,000 that softball and baseball have more. But then again, trustees, what we have to look at, depending on the sport itself, is how many students are you coaching. So football right now, because there is no freshman, and I got clarity this past 2 weeks ago, no freshman and no JV. Now all the kids are combined that would have been freshman or JV. So you have roughly, and this is a rough estimate, about 50 kids that are being, of our students that are being coached. So when you think, we have to take all those things into consideration too when you look at the balance of all the programs across the
What
school.
about our track coach? He coaches all the way from junior high all the way from high school. Every day, every afternoon, every morning.
And that's what I was gonna ask. So it looks to me, sir, just looking at this really quickly, real quick, like if all of the stipends are gonna be rolled up the way football, I don't think this would be an issue because everybody's stipend would go up. But I feel like only football, I hope there's not gonna be a different coaching staff for football junior high and they get a smaller stipend. Because what this shows me is that the coaches from football high school are gonna also coach our junior high, correct? And that's it, it's gonna be the same coach. And it's gonna be the same coaches. Now, if you have two different coaching staffing, then that would be two different stipends, correct?
Correct.
So would those coaches have the option to coach both schools and get a higher stipend? The way
Not
our football
necessarily.
coaches?
It depends on their content and what they're hired for at that time. So that's, the master schedule dictates a lot as far as who can coach what at this time. So in building the program that he's sought out and as he started getting new hires, I mean, those are all things that are the needs are being met at the high school as far as course content as well as at the junior high. Ms. Cook, is there anything that I've missed from the other meetings or?
Just basically an assumption. I know that Coach Perry's initiative behind that was to do pay higher in the stipend, but doing that with less staff members. So he cut several people essentially to up those salaries within the stipend. So he's doing more with less.
So, Doctor, do you recommend this stipend schedule, sir?
Absolutely. I recommend it because, again, it's a different way of looking at it, using the same amount of funds. And when I say the same amount of funds, it's within the football part of the budget. It's not across on all of that. So the same monies were used within the same football part of the budget.
Well, let me ask you this, how long have the stipends been like this? For the rest of the programs?
Are those like the regular stipends? On average, those have been, I know that the past couple of years we've adjusted here and there just to try to make it more equitable, but on average as a whole, it's about the same.
I think the last time we looked at it, where was it, Dr. Vidal?
Long
It's been
time.
about 3 or 4 years.
Long
I mean,
time.
And I know in the finance meeting, I asked Ms. Riggs if we can find some money to make some adjustments on those, stipends, so, I don't know where that went.
Well,
Well,
Go ahead.
If I may, but trustees, the big thing we have to look at again, if we start making a lot of adjustments across that, we're gonna start making adjustments all the way across on every other, I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of different areas, so those are things we have to consciously think about, because again, we're trying to pass a budget when we're saying we have a budget deficit.
Well, I'm gonna just, make my piece here, I'm gonna state my piece. It looks as if he is concentrating on football, and which he should be, he's our head football coach. It's coming like here quick like. I hope that he puts his AD hat on next and really looks at the rest of his compensation stipend plan. That is what I would like for him to do, because that's an 80 row for the board to come and say he needs to adjust that. We're kind of doing his job, I feel. So I hope that he takes that into consideration and looks at the rest of his stipend plan, maybe later this year, early next year.
And I think that we're not violating Title IX either, so.
Absolutely.
Well, and the TASB study is gonna give us a lot more information this year.
That was a good point that May said too. Let's look at the comparison between baseball and softball. You got 2 head baseball coaches at 5,000 apiece with 5 other coaches. Baseball has 7, softball has 6. Baseball's already pulling more money in the softball race, so it's not fair off the bat. So I think, Barry's on the right page right now, strategically spending his funds and utilizing what he's got, minimizing his staff. If he can afford to pay somebody a little bit more of a stipend, because he's utilizing less staff, and he's doing the right thing, and he's not asking for more money. We're in deficit, like it's been said over and over tonight. We can't afford to push more money into any department, any area. These department heads, these directors need to work with what they got. There's nothing else coming from this. It should not come from the board. We should not add no more money to any department. It's gotta be strategically spent every day.
And I agree with
Lori
said that he needs to put his AD hat on. I believe that he needs to put his AD on and make sure that everybody's equal across the board. Because I understand your point. It's like you have an offensive coordinator making 8,200, and you have another offensive coordinator makes 8,200. They say, well, we have 2 baseball coaches, but they're making 5,000 each. Why don't we give a defensive coordinator as a pitching coach, or Elias, and then we have a hitting coach making the same thing? I believe that it's the same kind of kids, it's the same kind of coaches. It's the cost of living and making sure they spend a lot of time. They get home at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. We had like I said, it's just working with kids, working around and giving the best to them. I believe that we have the best coaching staff that we got right now, especially in coaches, on baseball, softball, and basketball, track. And Adolfo Gonzalez spends tons of hours working with the kids day and night. And I believe that I just wanted to make sure that everybody's treated equal. That's my statement.
Thank you, May. Any other questions?
On the baseball and softball coaches, do we have that many?
No. Last year we didn't have any.
Personally, as a parent, I think we could have used a pitching coach for softball, my opinion.
Yeah, it's true.
And we don't have one right
no,
now.
but what I'm seeing
But we
here,
allocated money for a pitching coach, right?
But that doesn't mean we have one.
Right, no, but we allocated money, correct?
I'm sorry?
We have allocating money for a pitching coach, for a stipend, correct?
Well, all these stipends are available, it's just if we have the staff to use them or not.
And so you'll notice, and I think maybe that's where you're going, sometimes you look at, do we have a couple extra ones in there? That's basically what it is, what we have. That doesn't mean that every single slot is taken up. So in the future, if we have a teaching component or something that we need, we know that that's already been pre-approved by the board as far as the amounts.
But this is all football.
Yeah, we're looking at, well,
Overall.
She's looking
in
at
the
the
packet,
rest
it
of
it.
has everybody else's,
It's on
One-
page
133.
133.
133.
And one more thing, sir, I want to state as far as the football coaches do coaching junior high and high school, is I would like to see, because my son's in junior high, that our junior high athletes are getting the same amount of coaching as they would with their own separate coaching. You know, because it's a fun time for them. I hope they're not getting, short at time.
Is that what they're gonna do also with baseball?
With baseball, what you have as far as teaching allocation on the coach is what's right now is needed, because these are all conversations too, as far as the final allocation, as far as what's needed. Not only is it the AD, but it's also the principals are involved. So
As
as
far as
far as
scheduling,
scheduling, it goes back to master scheduling.
So since we still have two head baseball coaches, I mean, would that be like if we can have a head coach go and help at the junior high? I mean,
Well,
Well, that would be
you have
something for-
one who's a teacher and one who holds a different position in the school district.
so then the baseball kids wouldn't really.
The thing is that they already do.
Yeah, they already have.
They're, when they practice, when they go to the high school, when they go to baseball games, they're there, the coaches. They know.
So they can bring.
Whenever they go to the high school and practice at the high school, or they have games, they're there with the junior high coaches.
Okay,
They're all involved.
Yeah, but, so I'm saying, I was wondering if it was gonna be like an athletic, like let's just say baseball, they would head over there just like you're saying.
Right, so what's different about that specific one, you have one who is a teacher who was, because a teacher at the high school, that doesn't mean that the schedule of anyone always will fit the schedule of a junior high. So that's why it's all strategically done as you're starting to build a master schedule, and the vacancies that you have, you're hiring into those vacancies.
So you're telling me, okay, just to verify, you're telling me that there's no junior high coaches? I'm talking about junior high coaches that are getting paid to coach junior high.
I can't tell you specifics, sir. I can tell you what we've outlined. I can tell you what we've ran through with our athletic director and looking at everything across equitably. I can tell you that everything is tied to a master schedule and content as we move forward. So I can't answer all the specifics. I wish I could. But as far as the structure and even going to the finance committee, reviewing this a couple of times, reviewing, I mean, these are all items that we've had for discussion items. So-
And I was gonna say something, Dr. Moreno, we're approving the compensation plan, not just stipends. So let's
Right.
continue with this vote, and then we can bring it back next month, if you like, May, to discuss stipends only, because this is just a small fraction of our compensation plan, correct?
Well, for the compensation plan, but I want to reiterate again, the TASB study is going to review the whole compensation plan, and they're going to give their recommendations
So
statewide.
when is that gonna be done?
We're already in the process, I think, well, I know Ms. Riggs is not here to answer that, but we've already reached out to them. Actually, I think we've already signed something with a,
But they haven't even started yet.
they haven't started yet, no. It'll still be, I want to say it's another couple of months.
Yeah, okay. So-
I'm here, sir. The compensation study will start in February.
Okay,
Okay, not 22. So this probably won't even take effect until the following year.
yeah, definitely, but we haven't done like it.
Yeah.
Any other questions, trustees?
So what are we doing? Are we?
We have a first motion and a second motion. We've got questions,
For the
now we're
record,
gonna
you
vote.
said that we could bring it back.
Yeah, absolutely, you can bring any item, May. Yes, sir.
If we're gonna decide to vote, but are you removing the stipend part of it?
No. No, we have a motion and a second to approve the 2021-2022 compensation plan as presented.
As presented.
Mhm.
So then that doesn't mean.
So now we're going into vote.
That doesn't mean we can bring it back. You have to be on
You have to
the
be on,
side.
you have to be on the majority
On the
side
majority side to
in
bring
order
it
to
back.
bring it back for
Exactly.
discussion.
Right.
So
that's
in
Robert's
other words,
rules. That's
if
Robert's
it's
rules.
approved and Mr. Gonzalez says no, he would no
He
longer
can't bring
bring
it
this
back.
item back because
Okay.
he's on the minority of the,
Right.
if he was on the
That's fine, I
minority.
misinformed.
Lori, you
No, no,
can
I-
bring it back if you want. if
I
you're gonna vote for it.
will vote for it with the question that with the statement that you said that we can bring it back.
So
Well,
you'll
we're
vote,
voting for the item as presented.
Okay.
We're not gonna vote, we already have a first and a second, so now we're gonna officially finish the vote. correct?
May I make a comment?
Yes.
Okay, and once we get the TASB study trustees, you're part of that process, so you'll be part of the evaluation before we get to a final recommendation on everything across the board. So again, the problem is that we don't have the study today, but know that that's what's gonna impact the next year's budget as far as the staffing study, and you'll be heavily involved in the process.
Thank you, Dr. Moreno. Any other questions?
Who made the first and second email, sir?
Larry, make the, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next item, discuss and consider adoption of Robstown ISD tax rate for 2021-2022.
Trustees, we're asking again to discuss and consider adoption of the Robstown ISD tax rate for 2022 as presented earlier. Ms. Riggs, do you have any comments or additional comments?
No, I do not. I understand this is a tough situation, but my recommendation has been brought forth.
And again, your recommendation was a 0.54, Ms. Riggs?
My recommendation is the 1.0436 for the MNO rate and 52 is for INS.
52. But knowing that if we did the 54 cents or the 4 additional cents, that would leave us at a balanced budget, correct?
Yes.
On the INS
Yes,
side.
ideally, I would request the 1.0436 on the MNO side and 54 cents on the INS side.
So if we increase our taxes by 4 cents, we're gonna balance the budget. We're gonna approve a balanced budget, correct?
In fact, in your board packet, I actually have a surplus budget of an additional 14,000, but yes. At the 54-cent rate. At the 52-cent rate, it is a deficit budget.
So we're meeting halfway.
That's meeting halfway, yes, ma'am.
But that's with no guarantee, I mean, that things don't look up here going into next year.
That's
Coming back next year, we're gonna do another 2 or 3 cents.
That is correct.
Depending if, our projected numbers, they allot us those funds and we have to pay back those funds to the state, depending on our debt service, like you said earlier, taking all those things into consideration, we may be even increasing more next year.
Yes, sir.
We can make a comment after, before we vote.
Well, would somebody like to make a motion?
I would think the comment would be, so that we can see, we're not going to get a consensus of what the board decides.
Do we discuss this, for discussion, is that what we're doing?
We're
Or
discussing now.
Oh,
If
okay.
somebody would like to make a motion.
Well, my thought on it is what I'm proposing, or my thinking is that we're in COVID mode, okay, still. Our families have been affected. Everyone knows someone has been affected by it. Someone's dying, or someone that you know has, a family member, somebody has died with this. So they've been hit pretty hard emotionally, and I think if we hit them with a tax increase, even if it's a very little amount or even 4 cents, that's gonna really hurt people. Next year, I'm hoping that we will recover because we're gonna have our kids are not gone, they're not gone, they're here. They're here, but their families are afraid to come, send our kids. But if we just, think about it and we try to recover our kids, next year should be a better year for us because 2 years is, I think, the max. What they're saying that usually a virus will last this long. So I'm foreseeing that we should be getting our kids back because they haven't transferred. They're just not coming in because they're afraid, and that's understandable. So I, for one, would not like to see any taxes raised. We already have very high taxes. We pay high taxes as it is. So that's my thought on it. It's very emotional for everybody because, like I said, everybody knows somebody that's sick.
That's a good point, Bertha. Thank you very much. I'll say my piece on it. Nobody wants, my parents are on a fixed income, so that's scary for me. But as a trustee, and as a advocate of our taxpayer money and our kids and our staff, raising it 4 cents is very scary to me. But I feel that it's best, in the best interest of our district and our taxpayers and our community, that we meet halfway and at least satisfy the 2 cents, because we don't know the uncertainty. We're already at a lower ADA right now than we were when we budgeted, correct, sir? We're already in a low. So even if we increase it 2 cents right now, I feel, and I don't wanna be a negative, but I feel just with my my number hat, that we may still have to increase it 3 cents next year. I believe that. So I think that nobody wants the burden of debt. Nobody wants that. I know I pay taxes. It hurts me too, but I feel that the best thing for us to do right now as a board is to increase it no more than 2 cents at the moment. So that's.
The same thing Ms. Garza said, it is hard for all of us to be put in a position as such. And no, not one of us ever wants to come into a position we are in right now and say, well, we have to raise taxes, or we have to buy 2 cents, 3 cents, 4 cents, whatever the case may be. We can go back and we can talk about all the expenditures that were spent in previous years. We can go back to say, oh, there was so much money added to debt service here and there with these projects. This is something that we inherited now. We're here. And if we look at every time we're in a board meeting, every time we're sitting up there and we're talking about finances, we reiterated, we are in a deficit. We are in a deficit. We've been in a deficit. So every time we speak about, giving raises, well, let's find a way. There is no way. And that's what we need to understand. That's what I'm understanding, is there is no way moving forward. And just like Ms. Rick did for her presentation, the next thing to come, if we don't get out of this predicament, is losing staff members. That is the next step, is to lose our staff. We start ripping. At this point, at least we can do it through attrition. At least, we're being strategic about positions that are being closed with staff members who are leaving on their own. And if our ADA keeps going down, at least Dr. Moreno and his staff is able to say, you know what, we don't need to do this anymore. But if we not recover from this deficit, we're gonna be forced to actually make the cuts. And people are gonna be left without jobs. And that's where we wanna be. So every time I hear, find a way, we need to get this, we need to get that, we need to give raises, we need to increase this. And they also said it earlier, we can't do a raise. We're fortunate enough right now to have the state and federal funding coming in through ESSER 2, ESSER 3, to help us give these incentives, give these retention incentives, recruitment incentives, bonuses. But again, we're not recovered in 3 years. This is all gone. And we're not giving a raise. So we just need to keep all that in mind. It's not going to get better overnight. It's not going to get better in 1 year. And we're going to have to make this hard decision. But we also got to keep in mind how we're spending our funding. Where is it going and what are we doing with it? That's all I have to say.
Any other statements?
I also agree that, we're in times of uncertainty, and I completely also agree with Mr. Orlan that we don't want to put the burden on anybody because of the times that we're in. But the reality of, at the point of our district, we have to get out of this situation that we're in. So at least try. I'm in agreement also with at least 2 cents, because the 4 cents would be, I think, an extreme burden on the taxpayer. But the reality, I think 2 cents would be ideal at this point to try to get us a little bit ahead.
So what would that do, Ms. Riggs, to our general fund? 2%.
2 cents.
2 cents, I'm sorry.
Well, if we were with the ADA 2320, which I don't feel that we were, we would just be using fund balance from the INS fund.
Okay.
It's hard to know what our true ADA is going to be, but it's possible that we'll use all our fund balance and then dip it for a general fund. Unfortunately, I just can't tell you what the ADA is gonna be and how that's gonna impact us.
Okay, thanks.
But whatever it's gonna be half of what you were originally gonna have to take if we impose a 4-cent increase, correct?
Correct.
Me, myself, I don't support an increase at all. I believe that we can go to the INS and use the balance fund to offset it this year. And like Ms. Roldan said, I believe that we're moving in a trend to where we just pray to God that things change. But right now, I will not support a tax increase. I believe that we have enough funding on the INS fund balance from the 375,000 that we have, and I believe that we can offset it this year. That's my consensus.
Let's not forget, once we pull that money from fund balance, we're pulling that money from our kids, we're pulling it from our staff, and it's not gonna get put back.
No, that's from the debt service, sir.
But it's coming out of the fund balance, sir, to go to the debt service, and once that happens, it's not going back.
Ms. Riggs, I have a question. If we were to impose a 2-cent or a 4-cent or however many cents today, next year, if we do recuperate and we do end up with the ADA that we balanced with, we can lower the tax rate then, correct?
It is my understanding that you can reduce the tax rate if we can meet our debt service requirements with a lower tax rate, yes.
Thank you. Trustees, do I have a motion?
Mr. Lopez, do you have any comments or anything?
I do not, no.
Unfortunately, we have to approve a tax rate tonight. So, tough times, trustees. Our community depends on us, our staff.
With the understanding of the predicament we're in, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve our tax rate at the, please correct me if I get it wrong, it's gonna be with the 52 cent and the 1.043, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is there a specific way we have to make the motion?
It could be read like that, if that's a specific scenario.
Okay, so,
Mr. Cantu, if you don't mind, Cesar has the resolution, if he can read it and make his motion, since you don't have it in front of you.
on your behalf, sir?
I'll get the second, that's okay, you can take the first, go ahead.
Resolution on the board to set tax rate, August 23rd, 2021. On this date, we, the Board of Trustees of the Robson Independent School District, hereby levy or set the tax rate on $100 valuation of the district for the tax year 2021 at a total tax rate of 1.5436 to assess and collected by the duly specified assessor and collector as follows. $1.0436 for the purpose of maintenance and operation, and 0.5200 for the purpose of payment of principal and interest on debt. Such taxes are to be assessed and collected by the tax officials designated by the district. This tax rate will raise more taxes for the maintenance and operation than last year's tax rate. The tax rate will effectively be raised by 0.1689% and will raise taxes for maintenance and operation on a $100,000 home by approximately $1.76. That's a
That's a motion. I have a motion by Cesar. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Larry. Any questions?
I'll just make one quick comment, just for discussion, and, I hope that we all understand, again, the situation we're in, and we don't come at our finance department or superintendent with requests of finding money for any special circumstances or for any other extra duties, or, I hope we understand the predicament we're in, because it is tough. We just don't need to be making demands for the department or our superintendent for things that we know cannot happen at this point. That's it.
Mr. Gadu, real quick, just for the record, I'm not sure how you wanted to do this, but did you want to make this your recommendation, or?
I second.
His motion.
Or his motion, your motion, I'm sorry.
It was Cesar's motion.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion, and Larry seconded.
Go ahead.
Mr. Cantu, it's, the thing is that our finance department is there for us to work with, and, it's not demanding, it's just a matter of understanding each other, and wherever we vote yes or no, we all have a right to vote, and
Ways to help, we need to pay the debt off a little bit. But we're not always gonna be able to say, find the money, make it happen, and we're always gonna be invested. We say we're always gonna be investor, then we're gonna lose our staff, we're gonna lose our district.
yes, sir, my thing, I was voting against it because we have 375 on the INS debt fund balance. Okay, we can offset it with that, that's what I'm saying, I'm not going to the general fund. So
You're all set?
we have money on the debt service, so we can use that to offset the tax rate. So, that's what I'm talking about, but everybody else has a right to come in, you know, I'm just saying, I didn't see on the behalf of the stipends, I didn't see equality on the stipends, but otherwise, we all have the same right, you know, to talk to the CFO or to recommend or suggest, you know, but I understand your point, and I understand we're all in the same thing, but we all have the same right.
I would clarification on your statement of money and debt service to offset the INS. I don't understand what you're trying to say.
Vanessa, can you explain that?
If I understood it correctly, it's coming out of general fund in order to offset INS.
There's a 375,000 balance, I believe, in the INS, and what May's saying is that he thinks that the debt can be paid from there without touching our general fund. But I believe that will happen if we meet our ADA. I do not believe we're gonna meet our ADA. We have lost kids, that is a fact. COVID I'm sorry?
Is that a fact to Larry? I just wanted Larry to understand it.
Ms.
Vanessa?
So what Ms. Garza just said is exactly what I would say. As it stands with the 52 cents, we're drawing down fund balance in the INS. However, as Ms. Garza said, that's on an ADA of 2,320. Right now, our enrollment is 2,365, so we pretty much need almost every child in school. I do not believe that we'll reach that ADA. Because of that, we have the potential to draw not only all of the balance in INS, but also have to pull from the general fund.
Well, we do not rate all, as Mr. Gonzalez is saying, is raised. We have the 50%, you know, where he votes no to vote for the 52, then we definitely, was that correct?
More than likely, yes, sir, if we do not reach the ADA.
Ms. Riggs, could you please explain, because we're talking about the INS, what are the requirements as far as the final vote from our trustees?
So, on this particular item, because of the issue I explained on M&O, we need 60% of the governing body to approve the tax rate. So since there are 7 of you present, we need 5 of you to vote in favor of the tax rate, as it stands.
And Ms. Riggs, if 5 of us do not approve the tax rate, then we would have to make another motion, and the only motion left to make would be staying where we are at the 50 cents, I'm sorry. We're already below ADA, we're already gonna exhaust all of the INS and the fund balance, correct?
Yes, but in addition, you have yet another option. If you do not accept the increase to M&O, and you request that I move the tax rate down to the rate to maintain, at that time, your recommendation would be to adopt the M&O rate at the rate to maintain, and my recommendation would be to have the INS at 52 cents. And at that point in time, I would only need a majority, 4-3.
Thank you, Ms. Riggs. Any other questions, trustees? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
I have, let's do an individual vote on this item, please, trustees. May Gonzalez,
No.
Cesar Martinez,
Aye.
Bobby Maruquin,
Aye.
Bertha Roldan,
No.
Mr. Lopez, Hector Lopez. Aye. Larry Cantu,
Aye.
Lori Garza, aye. So it's a 5-2 vote. Irma, did you get that? Thank you, Irma. Thank you, trustees. I know it's very tough. I commend all of us for seating in these seats. Thank you, and let's just pray for the rest of a healthy and have all our kids back. Sir, next item.
Trustees, the next item is discuss and consider approval of accelerated 2021-2022 budget using state compensatory funds. Ms. Riggs?
We are legally required to identify and first adopt a budget for state comp. Our state comp out this year is $3,628,739. We are required to budget at least 55% of that. And so right now we have budgeted $2,130,024 in program 26, 28, 30, and 34. So we've actually budgeted a little bit more, about 134,000 more. So we do meet the requirement. So it's my recommendation that you approve the accelerated instruction budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Riggs. Trustees, I have a motion, I have a recommendation to approve accelerated 2021-2022 budget using state compensatory funds. Sorry, guys.
Madam President, make a motion that we approve, item 10C as presented by Ms. Riggs.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second by Cesar and Bobby. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item, sir.
Trustees would like to discuss and consider adoption of the 2021-2022 proposed budget.
I have a recommendation from staff to adopt the 2021-2022 proposed budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
I have a first by Hector and a second by Larry. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Next item, sir.
Trustees would like to discuss and consider approval to carry forward and reappropriate 2020-2021 encumbrances and fund commitments into the fiscal year 2021-2022. Ms. Riggs, would you like to make any comment on this specific one?
Yes, I noticed in the past year this has not been brought to the board. I think typically the district has not rolled any purchase orders into the next year. I don't know for sure that I will be rolling any purchase orders. We do have some technology purchase orders that have not been fulfilled. And so I would like to request permission in the event that we need, that I can roll those purchase orders to the next fiscal year, thereby increasing the budget by the amount of those purchase orders. If I were to do so, I will come back to you in the fall at a different board meeting, and I will let you know exactly which purchase orders I roll forward. Now, we do have about 500,000 in outstanding purchase orders as of today. Things like paper, desks, little items, I will not be moving those over. Those will be closed out at the end of the year, but I am worried about some potential technology purchase orders. And so I request your permission. If you don't give me permission tonight, then I cannot roll those purchase orders.
Thank you, Ms. Riggs.
Madam President, I make a motion that we approve, 10E and give, Ms. Riggs the authority to move forward with this.
I have a first by Cesar. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Bobby. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Next item.
For the record, it looks like Mr. Cantu is logged off. I'm not sure if that was intentional, but,
Did you vote?
no, he didn't vote for this one.
Irma, he did not vote on this one. Thank you, Irma.
8:45, just in case.
Next item, sir.
Trustees, this was an item that was tabled from the last board meeting, but this item is to discuss possible action regarding executing a memorandum of understanding with the city of Robstown regarding real property located at Casa Blanca, Robstown, 1.2 acres out of East 4 Block 2A, Park, and Griffin, WR Robstown, Block 6, Lot 9, ETAL, otherwise known as Beatriz Tagle Park or Turtle Park. So trustees, the last time we brought it forward, again, this is a memorandum of understanding that we have. Now, the next step would be is if you approve this memorandum of understanding, then I would now take it to the city. That way the city could review their legal review and then go from there. But this was an MOU that was prepared by our attorneys.
So we're still, they're still waiting on us, right?
Correct.
The city's still waiting
Yes.
on us.
This is what we're,
Correct.
so I make a motion that we go ahead and move forward with, under business support, item 10F. And this is the same one as last.
Correct.
And for the record, this is a 50-year.
Yes.
50-year memorandum of understanding. I make a motion, Madam President, that we move forward in regards to 10F as presented.
I have a first by Stefan and a second by Bobby. Any questions?
Yes, sir, yes, ma'am, I do. So can you explain to me number 9? I think I read it and I understand it, I just wanna make sure I hear it from you.
Number 9?
Number 9, I don't know.
Dr. Moreno, just a minute. Edma, for the record, Larry logged off at 8:45. Thank you, Edma.
What page, sir? 151,
154, sir.
154. Because you said that our attorney was the one that worked it, right?
Correct.
I just want to make sure you explain that.
Number 9?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so unless sooner terminated or hereunto provided, the terms of this MOU shall commence on whatever date that we decide, because remember, from this point, they're gonna review regardless, but like if, let's say that trustees tonight, you're gonna vote on it, then I would, put down today's date, and then it would go through the end of whatever the date is gonna be, because of the last time that we brought it, so we just have to reevaluate those dates. But those dates, given permission or guidance by the board, I'll go back to our attorneys, get the specific dates from the time that you approve and move forward, and we'll come up with the exact date of the ending year.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hector, you said yes, correct?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next item.
Trustees, this is an RFP process that we've been going through again. This one is related to several services, but again, trustees, if you noticed, I think the past 2 board meetings, we brought different RFPs, and we're just trying to make sure that we're given the proper procurement process. But it's going back to my philosophy, going slow to go fast. You get a good sense of how many companies are out there. They go through the vetting process properly, and then we can then start to be able to work with the different companies based on the RFPs. So again, this is the reason we go through this is to make us more efficient in the long run. So this discuss and consider awarding of RFP 21-0012, the licensed specialist in school psychology. RFP 21-0013, orientation and mobility services. And RFP 21-0014, diagnostician.
I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a first by Hector and a second by Cesar. Any questions?
If I could, I think we're required to name the vendors who won the, or who are recommending for award. So for LSSP, that would be CY Psychological Clinic and Trinity Educational Services. For 13, Orientation and Mobility, Irma Cantu. And for 14, Diagnostic Services, Julian Alegria. And I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, ma'am. Thank you.
What was that first one, Ms. Riggs? I'm sorry.
Number 12 for
Number 12,
LSSP is, I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but I think it's like Dubois Psychological Clinic and Trinity Educational Services.
DeVos, Ms. Rodan mentioned? Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Riggs. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item,
Trustees would like to discuss and consider awarding of RFP 21-0015 self-funded workers insurance and RFP 21-0017 excess workers compensation insurance. Ms. Riggs, did you want to comment on that before the trustees review?
For 16 self-funded workers' compensation insurance, we're recommending TriStar, which is our current provider. We did receive a few bids for that one, and we thought TriStar was better overall value. And then for 17 excess workers' compensation insurance, we only received one bid, which was from Frost Banking Investment Insurance, and they too are also our current provider. And we've had really good services from both providers. Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Riggs.
Madam President, I make a motion to, accept, under business support 10H as, recommended by staff.
I have a first by Cesar. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Hector. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Next item, sir.
Trust-
Instruction.
Under instruction, trustees would like to discuss and consider taking possible action on early college program memorandum of understanding with Del Mar College for the 2021-2022 school year. And that's an ongoing, so year to year.
I have a motion by Bobby, and I have a second by Bertha. Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Irma Cesar's not here for that vote. Thank you, Irma. Very no. Next item, the board will now convene in a closed session in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.074. Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Hector and a second by Bertha. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Cesar's not here for that one either. Thank you. I have a first by Bobby,
I'll second.
a second by Cesar. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Yuma, for the record, Ms. Roldan, had to leave at 9:25. And, I'm not sure exactly the exact time, but Mr. Lopez did not, log into executive session.
Thank you, Cesar. Dr. Moreno?
Trustees, we'd like to discuss and consider approval of resignations, appointments, and terminations as discussed in executive session.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to, approve item 12, executive session as presented by Dr. Moreno,
13A.
or 13A.
I have a first by Cesar. I have a second by Bobby. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item is adjournment.
So moved.
I have a first by Cesar and a second by Bobby. Any questions? No questions, but you know, I gotta say something. It was a great meeting.
Here we go.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, ladies. Irma, Richard.
Did we get it ready?
We got a salad. We got salad. We got cheese. Sir, can you get